I travel from one world to another doing wholesale sales, and you call this the end of the world? This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 501 The Tragic Man. In order to express his sincerity, Eijiro wrote and smoothed it out and wrote again. After several times, he finally told his story. After reading it, Sue couldn't help but fall silent. I don't know whether to say Eijiro is lucky or unlucky. Fortunately, he has become a polluter and retained his consciousness. But unfortunately, he is no longer the Eijiro of the past. But he just can't realize it, and he has been looking forward to returning to the past. This is very tormenting. How did you find me? Shaking his head, throwing away some irrelevant thoughts, Sue raised the most concerned issue in his mind. This is a new ability I have after my mutation. I can sense life forms without eyes. They don't know. After hearing this, Eijiro immediately wrote on the smooth sand. It seems that this guy is also scheming, and he knows to keep a hand for himself. Oh my. Humanoid infrared device? Sue was stunned, but he knew in his heart that Eijiro's ability was not that simple. Because the power armor has the function of isolating life characteristics, that is to say, even the infrared monitor cannot detect him in a static state. But Eijiro can sense it accurately, which can only mean that his ability is more advanced. However, Sue is not a researcher, so he cannot make a correct evaluation of him. Sue looked at Eijiro in front of him and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Saving him is not useless. At least, he knew the origin of biochemical soldiers. At the same time, he also knew three places. The secret research base located in the polar region, the bloody fortress with unknown location, and the confirmation that Loan Company produced and manufactured the destroyer. No matter from which angle, these three places have great value. If I go and get it, the United States will definitely be very uncomfortable. But for Sue, it will be very happy. Seeing Sue's sudden silence, Eijiro was a little terrified. In front of this powerful man, he knew that he could not escape. The only thing he could do now was to make the other party as satisfied as possible in exchange for his slim chance of survival. It's not that he is afraid of death, but he will not rest in peace until his revenge is taken. Have you seen this? Sue said, and a virtual screen popped up, on which was an enlarged picture of the three-color Ouroboros. In the secret base of the base, after seeing the picture, Eijiro nodded quickly. Now any useful information is the value of his survival. Then what about this thing? Sue raised his hand and swiped it, and the three-color Ouroboros picture faded, and then a picture of a mysterious stone appeared. This is the mysterious substance that Fang Yunzi used to make the zombie jammer. In Luo Yington's laboratory, I've seen it. Eijiro nodded quickly again. For him, this seemed to have one more chip for survival. Sure enough, it takes no effort to find it. After Sue learned the whereabouts of the mysterious stone, he couldn't help but feel very happy. But when his eyes touched Eijiro in front of him, he couldn't help but hesitate. For the time being, he didn't know how to deal with this guy. Please don't kill me, at least please don't now. After I take revenge, I will definitely give you my life back, I swear. As if sensing Sue's hesitation, Eijiro quickly wrote on the sand navigation. A pair of pleading eyes stared at Sue, hoping to move the other party with this. Revenge? Sue was stunned. Should his enemies be those technicians? But those people also obey orders. If you count carefully, it's not an exaggeration to say that it's the entire United States. Yes, the reason why I am here today is all because of one person, that's my comrade Juventus. Seeing that it aroused Sue's interest, Eijiro immediately wrote and told another story. Juventus and Eijiro grew up in the same town, and they have been good friends since childhood. Later, they joined the army together and became a member of the Marine Corps. However, it was because of Juventus's informant that the top leaders targeted Eijiro. As a result, he was sent to the mysterious laboratory in the polar region for experiments. Eventually, this situation occurred. How do you know it's him? Sue couldn't help but ask curiously. Because only he knows that I have the ability to sense danger, Eijiro wrote bitterly. He regarded Juventus as a brother, but the other party was thinking about how to murder him all day. In fact, after Eijiro escaped from Lointon, the first thing he did was to go home, but his parents had died unexpectedly a year ago. With nowhere else to go, Ajiro unexpectedly met his retired good brother Jovancurus. When Jovancurus recognized Ajiro, he was stunned. But then he promised to keep the secret and hide Ajiro. However, that night, the pursuers appeared in front of Ajiro. If he hadn't sensed the danger in advance and moved in time, then he would have been cut and sliced for research. After getting rid of the pursuers, Ajiro came to Jovancurus's residence with a last glimmer of hope. But the place was empty, and it could be seen that the owner left in a hurry, and many things had not been packed and sorted out in time. However, in the master bedroom, Ajiro saw something he would never forget. That was the wedding photo of his fiancée and Juventus. Liar, liar. They were all big liars. At that moment, Ajiro completely turned evil and fell into darkness. Afterwards, Ajiro sneaked into the local police station to track down Juventus, because this is where Juventus worked after retiring. However, he didn't find the clues he wanted, but unexpectedly discovered that the death of his parents was not an accident. There are still many doubts in the records, but they were not investigated, and the case was hastily closed. Looking at the police officer in charge of the case, it was Juventus' signature. It was he who classified this seemingly suspicious murder as an accident. New and old hatred surged in Ajiro's heart, and he frantically searched for Juventus' whereabouts. His efforts paid off, and he really found it. But there were some surprises. Juventus applied for protection with his family and moved into loan company together. Obviously, this was a trap. On the surface, he was protecting Juventus, but in reality, he was sending out this signal to lure Ajilo into the trap. Although he knew this, Ajilo still came here resolutely. However, in order to take revenge, he was very patient, hiding and observing secretly, looking for opportunities. In order to maintain his combat power, he kept eating fresh blood and flesh, because this was a way for the polluter to become stronger. This led to the encounter with Sue. Chapter 502 Soul Body. So, you are going to loan company to seek revenge on Juventus. After hearing what happened to Ajiro, Sue couldn't help but brighten his eyes. Ajiro nodded repeatedly, and hope ignited in his eyes. He knew he would die if he went, but as long as he could die with his enemy, then it would be worth it. Living like a ghost, for him, except for revenge, there is no meaning anymore. Not bad, not bad, you are brave, come on, drink it, Sue said, throwing out a glass tube with a pale yellow potion in it. Yes, this is a level 9 strengthening potion. It can open the shackles of human genes. Although Ajiro is a little stronger than that Coppin, it is also limited, and it may be a little worse in close combat. With his current strength, he will probably be killed before he even gets close to the gate if he goes to Loyton. This is not what Sue wants to see. At the same time, he also wants to see how Ajiro, this outlier, will perform after taking the strengthening potion. Ajiro held a glass tube thrown by Sue in his hand, feeling a little confused, a little sad, and a little hesitant. But soon, these expressions disappeared, and only determination remained. For the sake of revenge, he was not afraid of death, so what else should he worry about? Gulp. Ajiro swallowed the potion into his stomach in one gulp. It was refreshing and cool, with a little sweet aftertaste. However, soon, Ajiro felt boundless pain. His whole body felt like it was burning in a raging fire. Every nerve was aching, as if it was slowly torn by some invisible force, breaking and shattering bit by bit. But he didn't faint, and his sensitive brain kept receiving painful signals, making him feel miserable. Ajiro couldn't bear it anymore and burst into a painful wail. He dug the ground frantically with his hands to vent the pain in his body. For a moment, sand and rocks were flying, as if the devil had descended. Sue had to turn on the thrusters and fly into the air. Fortunately, he has shielded this area, otherwise such a big noise would definitely attract the attention of the monitoring satellite. What kind of existence will evolve with such a big noise? It's really exciting. Sue hovered in the air, patiently waiting for Ajiro's transformation. After a long time, the movement below gradually stopped. Under the cover of dust, only a vague shadow of Ajiro crawling on the ground can be seen, and his panting like a beast. Did it fail? Sue looked at Ajiro's weak appearance and couldn't help but feel disappointed. At this time, the smoke and dust dissipated, and Ajiro was still lying on the ground and couldn't get up. Under the mask, Sue's face was even more disappointed. A level 9 strengthening potion was wasted in vain. However, at this moment, Ajiro, who was lying on the ground, suddenly knelt up and let out a low roar towards the sky. With a roar, Silver light swam on his body like a spirit snake. It seemed that the sound of electric current hitting could still be heard in the ears. Eijiro's body also faded a little bit, and finally turned into a faint, silver-gray shadow. If you don't look carefully, you can't see it clearly. After the change, Eijiro seemed to have lost some weight and slowly floated up from the ground. Eijiro himself looked at his mutated hands with surprise, feeling that his whole body was filled with strange power. But he could control himself and make irregular movements in the air at a very fast speed. So, this guy couldn't help but play with it. He was having a lot of fun in the air. Sue was also stunned on the side. What kind of ability is this? Is it a ghost? The good times didn't last long. Eijiro, who was playing crazy, couldn't control himself and crashed into a big tree. Because of the excessive acceleration, he couldn't stop at all, and could only watch the big tree get closer and closer to his eyeballs. In the end, Eijiro closed his eyes and gave it up. Swish. However, there was no feeling of collision, but a feeling of secret pleasure. When he opened his eyes, it was pitch black all around. Oh my god, it actually rushed directly into the ground for several meters. Eijiro quickly retreated, and saw that he was unharmed. Looking at the ground, it was also intact. Only the big tree withered in an instant, and the originally green leaves seemed to have been burned, turning yellow and falling like raindrops. Elemental body? Sue, who was standing aside, was even more shocked. But it was not right. Because Eijiro's body was not wind, water, electricity, or fire. It was not an element. Instead, it was full of powerful spiritual power. Could it be a soul body? Sue hurriedly landed next to Eijiro and reached out to try to touch Eijiro, but his arm and power armor went straight through Eijiro's body without grabbing anything. Sure enough. Looking at the empty palm, Sue was more certain of his inner thoughts. Eijiro, who was standing aside, saw this result and his eyes were a little drifting. All physical immunity. Who can do anything to me from now on? Humph. At this moment, Sue's cold snort reached Eijiro's ears. At the same time, it was as if a spike had been inserted into Eijiro's brain, stirring wantonly and causing him great pain. The entire pale silver body began to tremble violently. Soon, with a plop, Eijiro turned back into his original form and fell heavily to the ground. At this time, he looked at Sue with awe, without any other thoughts. Put away your ambitions, I can create you, and I can also destroy you, if you still want revenge. Just be quiet, Sue said to Eijiro in a cold voice. Eijiro, who knelt on the ground, kowtowed to Sue in a hurry. Put away all the thoughts that should not exist. Yes, it was Sue who had just caused Eijiro great pain. After absorbing the spiritual power attribute corpse crystal of the red-eyed alien, Sue's spiritual power was greatly improved. Now with his level rising, it is natural that it is also rising. Especially after practicing the inner strength method, he has been able to use spiritual power to attack. He had tested this ability on Yuna before. Of course, the strength was very, very light. But it turns out that this kind of physical immunity is very restrained against the elemental body. Sue also gave it a name, called the spiritual thorn, which is definitely a demon for all enemies. This Eijiro actually dared to expand. He was instantly beaten back to his original form by Sue. Next, Sue conducted a lot of tests on Eijiro's alien body. After all, he had never encountered this ability in the wasteland world. He can also go up to the sky and into the earth, which is even more powerful than Yuna. Through testing, Sue discovered that Eijiro's soul body is not only immune to physical attacks, but also has a very strong resistance to elemental attacks such as wind and fire. Chapter 503 I'm here. In the spirit state, Eijiro's attack method is very direct. When penetrating the organism, it will cause great damage to life. From the inside to the outside, there are traces of burning by electric current. With a blessing of lightning speed, it is very domineering. The only thing he fears is mental attack. Eijiro can switch freely between the entity and the spirit. The entity relies on speed and claws. After the mutation, the speed is even more impressive. In addition, there is a third form, that is, half spirit, half entity. In this state, it is not completely immune to physical attacks, but the speed can be greatly improved. The claws attack also causes mental damage, just like being pierced by the spirit, which is very impressive. Such a powerful ability makes Sue jealous. Of course, his face must be excluded. Fortunately, Su Wei has a magic weapon to restrain him, otherwise he is really a strong opponent. In the next few days, Su Wei took Ajiro to wander around in the mountains, using wild beasts to practice while also upgrading and transforming him with energy potions. Although Ajiro's ability is powerful, the level is a bit poor. If he encounters a high-level enemy, he will not be able to cope with it. Therefore, Su Wei plans to upgrade him to the king level, and then go to trouble Luo Yingtan. During this period, there were also several waves of hunters who came to hunt Ajiro. But without exception, they all became Ajiro's training targets. If Su Wei had not forbidden him to eat people, they would have become his prey. It took 5 days in total, and Ajiro was directly trained by Su Wei to the peak level of the king. It was only one step away from the emperor level. However, as the peak of the emperor level, Su Wei still ate him to death, without any resistance. In addition, Su Wei knew his methods very well, and dealing with him was as easy as eating and drinking. This made Ajiro even more awed by Su Wei. After everything was ready, on a dark and windy night, Su Wei and Ajiro came to the headquarters of Luo Yingtan Company. Luo Yingtan Company is located at the northernmost end of Gas City, the northernmost city in the United States, and is also the closest to the pole. Here, it snows all year round, and the average temperature is below -10 degrees. The ground part of Luo Yingtan Company does not look too big, and it is located on an endless plain. It is like a white carpet with a small bulge, and it is also white, blending in with the surrounding environment. The surrounding white snow has become its natural protective color. Whether it is a satellite or a high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft, it will be very difficult to see the details here clearly. However, these are not very useful in front of the shunting system, and they can all be seen clearly. Including the bunkers built around, they are all detected by the shunting system and marked on Su Wei's holographic screen. Su Wei used the same trick again, found the outermost camera, and then connected it with a signal pin, and then waited. Artificial intelligence will automatically crack Luo Yingtan Company's security system. Soon, artificial intelligence feed back good news. Luo Yingtan Company's peripheral monitoring system has been taken down. Even if the two walked over in a swagger, they would not be discovered. Of course, Luo Yingtan does not rely entirely on the monitoring system. There are also a large number of guards hiding in the bunkers to monitor the surroundings, which is also a layout without blind spots. But compared to the multifunctional detection camera, the human eye is much easier to deceive. Once the stealth unit is turned on, you can still walk in with a swagger. As for Ajiro, Su Wei gave him a piece of stealth cloth, covered himself, followed Su Wei, walked through the periphery like a leisurely stroll, and came directly to the gate of the headquarters of Luo Yingtan Company. Ajiro, start your performance. Standing in front of the gate of the headquarters of Luo Yingtan Company, which is dozens of meters high, Su Wei said to Ajiro on the side. The security system of Luo Yingtan Company is not a whole, and each area is divided. Therefore, it is quite troublesome to invade. Moreover, physical isolation has been established before. Even if artificial intelligence is so powerful, it is still impossible to invade comprehensively. As long as one of them behaves abnormally, it will trigger an artificial warning. Therefore, Su Wei simply gave up the idea of sneaking into the village. Anyway, I brought Ajiro here just to let him attract firepower, so the more lively the better. Ajiro untied a corner of the stealth cloth, revealing a face of pious worship, and bowed deeply to Su Wei. This was to express his gratitude to Su Wei. In any case, it was the man in front of him who saved his life and made him stronger, and the hope of revenge became more likely. So, from the bottom of his heart, Ajiro was extremely grateful to Su Wei. Unfortunately, he didn't know if he could survive this battle. If he could, then he wouldn't mind following the man in front of him to the death. Because, besides revenge, this was the only belief that kept him alive. Go, don't waste the effort I put into you, Su Wei waved his hand and said. Although he was in stealth mode, he knew Ajiro could see it. Just like he saw Ajiro clearly on the holographic screen. Ajiro stood up and nodded, turning to face the steel gate of Luo Yingtan Company that was dozens of meters high. This door was not only thick and heavy, but also covered with close defense weapons. It can be said that it was armed to the teeth. However, these were useless to Su Wei and Ajiro. Ajiro tore off the invisible cloth and revealed his true self. Almost at the same time, the alarm on the gate of Luo Yingtan Company rang rapidly. All close defense weapons immediately aimed at and locked onto his figure. The dense red dots almost dyed him red. The scene was quite spectacular. The next second was a rainstorm of attacks. Without waiting for the attack to come, the silver snakes on Ajiro's body danced wildly, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into a faint, silver spirit. The rain of bullets instantly passed through his body, blasting the snow behind him into a piece of black soil. But Ajiro was unscathed. Roar Juventus Ajiro is coming, are you ready? Ajiro's roar made the guards who rushed up tremble. What kind of monster is it that can survive a round of close defense weapons? Whoosh! Without waiting for everyone to react, Ajiro accelerated and rushed towards the gate of Loyton. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Stop him! Stop him! Fire! The guards gathered and fired at the spirit Ajiro frantically, but the bullets penetrated without any obstruction and failed to cause any damage to it. On the contrary, all the guards who were close to Ajiro on his charge route fell to the ground in an instant. When his companions came, they found that the opponent was charred from the inside out, without a trace of blood flowing out, and he was already dead. It's an alien? Quickly notify the headquarters. The outer guards could only watch the spirit Ajiro penetrate the huge 1-meter-thick iron gate and disappear from their sight. Chapter 504, Driving Straight In. After penetrating the gate of Loyton, Ajiro saw a group of soldiers who were ready for battle. However, the soldiers who were ready for battle were a little confused. They heard the alarm and knew that there was an enemy invasion. But they didn't expect that the enemy broke in without even destroying the gate, and it was a monster that looked a bit like a ghost. Fire! After a brief shock, the leader immediately reacted and gave the order to fire without hesitation. The guns in the hands of the soldiers immediately burst out with the strongest firepower. Another burst of bullets came like rain. Unfortunately, in the eyes of the spirit Ajiro, this was a joke. He even took the time to look around and had lost Suwei's trace. Although he didn't know what Suwei's purpose was, the enemy of the enemy is a friend. Let's destroy Loyton together. The bullet penetrated the spirit without any hindrance and hit the huge metal door behind it, making a ping-pong sound. Whoosh! Ajiro accelerated and rushed towards the soldiers on the opposite side. The leader who was the first to bear the brunt was the first to receive the lunchbox. After being pierced by Ajiro, a lot of smoke suddenly came out of his eyes, ears, nose and mouth, and then he fell to the ground limply, deader than dead. Weird skills, bizarre death. The most important thing is that he is immune to firearms. This directly defeated the psychological endurance of these soldiers. After all, when you face a monster that can't be killed, even well-trained soldiers will become overwhelmed. However, soon, the figure of Ajiro the spirit passed through the team and went straight to the back. Only a few people were injured. The frightened soldiers looked at each other, and finally gritted their teeth and chased after him. Woo 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 woo! The deafening alarm sounded at Loyton Company. It sounded at the gate first, and then all the way. It went straight to the headquarters building. The speed was so fast that the guards along the way were caught off guard. Fuck, who can tell me what happened? Why can the enemy march straight in? On the top floor of the Loyton headquarters building, an old man with white skin and white hair roared angrily. He was Stevenson, the manager of the Loyton headquarters. What made him extremely angry was that from the time the alarm sounded until now, no one could tell him the information of the enemy. General, at this moment, a guard commander ran in. George, what the hell have you been doing? Stevenson asked his adjutant with an angry face. General, we captured the true face of the enemy, George replied quickly. It was indeed his dereliction of duty that he could not effectively stop the enemy for so long. But he had no choice. The enemy was too powerful. All his alien teams were sent out. Not only did they gain little, but they also suffered heavy losses. It was not easy to force the enemy to stop. He came to report. Who is the enemy? After hearing this, Stevenson did not care about scolding his subordinates and asked quickly. General, please look. George hurried forward and brought up the surveillance footage on the big screen. A faint, dark silver figure was seen floating in the air. Gravity seemed to have lost its effect on him. Not only was he extremely fast, but he could also make some incredible moves. It was hard to guard against. Is this the enemy? Stevenson pointed at the ghost-like shadow with a surprised look on his face. Yes, George nodded with difficulty. How many are here? Stevenson continued to ask. One by one, just this one, George answered with more difficulty. What, one beat the shit out of you, are you all big spenders? Stevenson suddenly exploded. This is Loyton, the largest weapons research and development center in the United States, No doubt about it. The others are just smoke bombs made for the opponent. There are countless aliens stationed here, and the defensive weapons they are equipped with are also the most advanced achievements. It can be said that this place is safer than the Octagon in the United States. But now, they can't do anything to a guy who looks like a ghost. They let him wander around the headquarters of Loyton. Are you kidding me? Ladies and gentlemen, today is not April Fool's Day. General, the opponent is quite strong, and his superpowers are unprecedented. Not only is he immune to all physical damage, he also has strong resistance to most superpowers, and he seems to be able to sense danger and has dodged our energy weapon attacks several times. Our people are really hard to resist. George looked like he was about to cry. This was the first time they had seen such a perverted superpower, and there was no relevant record in the database. The most important thing is that the opponent seemed to be able to sense danger and escaped from the encirclement several times. And the pursuers were killed one by him. After hearing this, Stevenson fell into a brief silence. Immune to physical attacks, which means that 99% of the headquarters defense systems are ineffective against him. Strong resistance to most superpowers, which means that most of the aliens stationed in the factory are not his opponents. By this calculation, he is indeed very strong. Can you confirm the other party's identity and purpose? Stevenson quickly recovered. If he couldn't defeat him head-on, he might be able to start from other aspects. If the data is correct, it should be him, Subject Zero, who escaped from here earlier, Agillo, George said as he called up Agillo's data and images and compared them with the current image of the spirit. Sure enough, the appearance of the spirit is very similar to that of the mutated Agillo. Coupled with the ability to sense danger, it can be basically confirmed that it is him. Subject Zero Agillo alarmed all the top leaders of the United States at the time. After all, there has only been one controllable polluter in decades. If it is studied well, it will be an extremely powerful trump card for the United States. Therefore, it was named Number Zero. If it is him, his purpose must be revenge. Stevenson looked at the information on the screen and pondered. Not bad, General. More than 90% of his purpose is to seek revenge on Juventus, George reminded. The company accepted Juventus's protection application with the purpose of luring Agillo into the trap. But what they didn't expect was that in such a short period of time, Agillo had such a terrifying mutation. Experimental Subject Zero, how many secrets do they still have that they don't know? Where is Juventus? Stevenson asked immediately. He and his wife Kyong Eva have been moved underground, George replied quickly. Chapter 505 Safe House. Notify the guards and take them to the number 3 test site. Stevenson made a decision immediately. He gave an order to his adjutant George. General, are you going to use plasma weapons? George couldn't help but confirm after hearing this. The number 3 test site was built by the Loyton Company specifically for plasma weapon testing. Although it has made great gains, it is still a long way from actual combat. If it is used rashly at this time, regardless of whether it can cause damage to it, the consequences of losing control may cost half of Loyton. Yes, go prepare, I want to see how strong he can be. Stevenson, who has not undergone genetic modification, still believes in the power of weapons. In his eyes, the alien is just a humanoid weapon. As long as it is a weapon, there must be a way to restrain it. Yes, General, George immediately accepted the order after hearing this. By the way, General, I suggest you evacuate to the underground safe house first. Your safety is the driving force of our fight. Before leaving, George did not forget to flatter his boss. Sure enough, those who can be adjutants are not ordinary people. Got it, I wish you success in advance. Stevenson nodded with satisfaction, and then took his assistant to the dedicated security elevator in the office. From there, they can directly enter the facility nearly 100 meters underground. In addition to a large amount of reserves, there are also strong safe houses. It can withstand the continuous attack of nuclear explosions. Double ditch everyone, get moving. After watching General Stevenson enter the security elevator, George immediately rushed out of the office and shouted at the soldiers outside the door. So, amid the alarm, a conspiracy against Agillo began to be laid out. However, when everyone's attention was focused on Agillo, no one noticed that an uninvited guest had come to the company. Yes, he was Sue. After the battle at the gate broke out, he took advantage of the chaos and flew into the Loyton Company. At this moment, he followed Stevenson and entered the security elevator together. No matter how strong the fortress is, it can be broken from the inside. This sentence does make sense. After Su Wei sneaked into the headquarters building, he found that the security system here was not as high as that outside. Especially after entering this seemingly top-level office. There are almost no security facilities here. There is not even a surveillance. Perhaps it is to protect the privacy of this General Stevenson. As the elevator went down, Su Wei couldn't help but think with a bad taste. It's not his fault. Who made Stevenson, the old man's assistant, a charming, curvy, and plump blonde beauty? Still in the elevator, the two remained silent and did not say anything eye-catching. Su Wei tried to shrink into a corner. After all, the space in the room is relatively small, which is not convenient for the relatively bloated power-armored soldiers to move. For safety reasons, Su Wei turned on the anti-gravity device to make the Xiaolong float up without increasing the weight of the elevator. Prevent the other party from installing a gravity monitoring system. Besides, this elevator has a limited weight. With the tonnage of the Xiaolong, it would be overweight immediately if you step on it directly. The speed of the safety elevator is very fast. It took only 1 minute to reach dozens of meters underground. After the elevator was opened, there was a corridor with security systems all over it. After passing the iris scan authentication, Stevenson walked out of the corridor with his female assistant. Su Wei naturally floated quietly behind them. At the end of the corridor, there was already a team of fully armed soldiers waiting. After seeing Stevenson, he escorted them to the safe house. Along the way, you can see that there are also a large number of guards and defensive weapons deployed in the underground facilities. There are also aliens among them. Unfortunately, they can't sense Su Wei's existence at this moment. After all, the peak level of Emperor Zun is second only to the heavenly Dao level. With the electronic interference of Xiaolong, he is like entering an empty space. The safe house is located in the core position of the underground bunker. Not only is the system host of the entire center arranged here, but also a nuclear power reactor is arranged. The most powerful thing is that the main body is made of hard ultra-thick alloy and has an independent life support system. Even if the underground bunker is breached, it cannot break the defense of this safe house. Let the people inside have enough time to wait for rescue. It can be seen how important Lawton is to the United States. When they arrived at the door of the safe house, the escorting soldiers did not go in, but stood guard at the alloy door. In case of an emergency, they would use their bodies to block the enemy. Let this super thick alloy door be completely closed. General Stevenson walked into the safe house, and the people in the house stood up one after another, looking at him nervously. In addition to the operators of the safe house system, all of them were elite scientific researchers of the company. Among them was Dr. SYNOPSIS. The destroyer project he proposed was well received by the upper management, so now he is the main researcher of the destroyer, and naturally belongs to the category of very important personnel. It can be said that even if the entire loan company is destroyed, as long as the safe house is still there, a second loan company will be reborn soon. Because all the data and elites were escorted here at the first time. This place gathers all the essence of the entire Lawton company. It is equivalent to the existence of the brain. However, at this moment, an invisible enemy has lurked here. The people inside still know nothing. Of course, this is inseparable from Ajiro's credit. At this moment, the attention of the entire Lawton company is almost focused on him. Most of the company's top fighters also went to him. As a result, Su Wei was so leisurely. Gentlemen, ladies, please rest assured, things will be over soon. If we are lucky, we can achieve greater gains. Stevenson's confident speech made everyone feel as if they had taken a reassurance pill. Most of them were concentrating on research in the laboratory. Suddenly hearing an unprecedented alarm, they naturally thought they had suffered a devastating blow. They couldn't help but feel a little worried. Now, after hearing Stevenson's words, they were relieved. As long as nothing happens, it's fine. Just treat it as an emergency drill. The atmosphere in the safe house eased. After comforting everyone, Stevenson took his beautiful assistant and went straight to his office. Here, he could see the situation on the ground. Although it was said easily just now, the actual situation still depends on the performance of the number 3 experimental field. Give me a cup of coffee without sugar, thank you. After entering the room, Stevenson walked straight to the desk. While walking, he arranged. Okay, General. The beautiful assistant walked towards the tea room. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 506, The Stubborn General. After turning on the monitor and completing a series of authentications, the screen switched to a black painted site. This is the number 3 test site of Loan Company, which was built specifically for testing plasma weapons. At this moment, a team of soldiers was stationed there with a young couple. Needless to say, they must be the Juventus couple. Sue also saw it through the monitor. Juventus looks like a big boy, harmless. No one could imagine that he could do such a scheming thing. The girl next to Juventus is also good-looking, with the charm of a girl next door, which is really good to look at. She should be Agillo's former fiancée, Millis. The girl's name was naturally told to Sue by Agillo. But now Sue couldn't help but sigh silently for Agillo in his heart. Because Millis's lower abdomen has been slightly bulging, obviously she is pregnant. This shows that she and Juventus have been together for a long time, and perhaps they have been together since the official announcement of Agillo's bad news. Alice, I hope Agillo can bear the blows that come one after another. However, it's time to get down to business now, Sue said as he raised his knife and chopped the beautiful assistant's neck directly. The beautiful assistant who had just put down the coffee cup fell to the ground in an instant, unconscious, and her life or death was unknown. Who? Stevenson jumped up in horror. This is a safe house. To enter here, you not only have to go through a long passage, but also have to go through strict certification. How could there be an enemy here? And he knocked down his assistant quietly. Don't underestimate her as a woman. They are all specially trained biochemical soldiers. Their physical strength is far beyond that of ordinary people. Even aliens may not be their opponents. But in just a moment, she was killed by the opponent. General Stevenson, with a synthesized electronic sound. The air in front of Stevenson fluctuated like water waves, and a set of domineering full-body armor with a light blue main body appeared. The whole body exudes the smell of a killing, which gives people a great sense of visual impact. HX-1, Stevenson couldn't help blurting out the familiar power armor in front of him. The shock in his heart was beyond description. He never thought that the other party's power armor was so advanced. Even if they were given a few more decades, they might not be able to catch up. At this moment, Stevenson's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Good eyesight. Unfortunately, this is not the HX-1 type, but the more advanced HT-1 type. Sue patiently popularized the science to the other party, so that he would not be confused when he got down. HT-1 type, are you from Xinghu? Or from Daksha? Stevenson forced himself to calm down. The other party didn't kill him as soon as he came, thinking that he had other intentions, so he should be safe before achieving his goal. This is the opportunity. While talking, Stevenson touched the corner of the table beside him without leaving a trace. It was as natural as holding on to something when he was tired of standing. Don't waste your energy. I have taken over the security system here. Without my consent, you can't send out a single character, Sue said leisurely. Just when Stevenson turned on the computer, Sue used artificial intelligence to hack into the safe house system. Strong fortresses are often breached from the inside. What's more, it is artificial intelligence that is hundreds of years ahead of the times. The speed of the invasion is even faster than Stevenson's startup speed. Those pictures just now were also deliberately shown to him by Sue, including the pictures playing on the screen now. This, impossible. Stevenson heard this with an expression of disbelief. The security system of the safe house is independently operated and cannot be breached from the outside. He has only been in the safe house for a few minutes. How could the other party be so fast? Old man, you have to respect reality, Sue said, letting the surveillance pictures on the screen switch arbitrarily, and the control was smooth and there was no lag. And all this was done without touching Stevenson's desktop. Stevenson's legs suddenly softened and he fell into the chair. This is the end of the matter. All the information about Lawton must have fallen into the hands of the other party. General Stevenson, don't be discouraged. Don't you have a secret compartment? I can't find it online. I hope you can answer a few questions for me. Sue didn't care how much the old man was hit. Then he spoke. Humph. Stevenson stared at the mysterious man in front of him with vicious eyes, with a face full of resistance. After all, he is also a time-tested warrior. How could he surrender to the enemy? The things in the secret compartment are not allowed to be touched by others. Oh my, It seems that you are refusing to cooperate. Su Wei's voice was full of regret. However, in the electronic synthesized sound, it showed a full of sarcasm. Humph, don't waste time. Even if I die, I won't tell you, Stevenson said stubbornly. Haha, what a stubborn old man, but it doesn't matter, we have plenty of time. Su Wei waved his hand without any concern. What a big deal. HMPH, come on, when I was on the battlefield, I saw everything, Stevenson said, and with a sizzle, he tore off his uniform, revealing a chest with wounds in all directions. Although it had already scabbed over, it still looked extremely hideous. It shows how tragic the battle was at that time. Those who survived such injuries are equivalent to crawling out of the gates of hell. Any severe punishment would be insignificant in his eyes. Obviously, Stevenson misunderstood Su Wei's meaning. Damn. You exploded your clothes at the slightest disagreement, you old man really know how to play. Su Wei's eyebrows jumped. Are you disgusting me? Without saying a word, Su Wei immediately grabbed Stevenson's neck and lifted him up from the chair. Facing the huge power of the power armor, Stevenson did not resist at all, but stared at the cold metal visor with cold eyes. There was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. What? Are you angry and embarrassed? Kill, kill. If you kill me, you lose. Su Wei was very upset by Stevenson's mocking eyes. He rudely stuffed the truth serum into his mouth, and then as soon as he let go, Stevenson fell on the seat. As luck would have it, his butt fell on the armrest of the seat. The chrysanthemum was broken, and the ground was covered with wounds. Cough cough cough, damn it, what did you give me to eat? As a stream of cold liquid slid into his stomach. The calm Stevenson was no longer calm. He didn't care about the pain, and asked Su Wei with resentment on his face. You'll know in a while, Su Wei's magical voice sounded. Stevenson also gradually fell into a state of confusion. Chapter 507, Opening the Blind Box. The truth serum is always effective. Stevenson even confessed that he went to the red light district when he was young. Su Wei was very satisfied. This old man is also a man with a story. But it is important to do business. Su Wei took out a piece of invisibility cloth, wrapped Stevenson up, and then carried him out of the safe house. The door opened and closed. But no one came out. The guard was stunned for a moment. But there was no other abnormality, so he could only pretend that he didn't see it. When the door was opened, they clearly saw Stevenson sitting at the desk. This should be no problem. All the way was smooth. Su Wei took the unconscious Stevenson to the secret compartment. The records of the loan company mentioned its existence many times, but there was no detailed content. Therefore, Su Wei guessed that what he wanted to find was in there. Under the effect of the truth serum, Stevenson really confessed everything. It turns out that the mysterious stone is called Starstone, which is an alien object, not a product of the Earth. But where exactly it came from is unknown. I don't know if Stevenson's level is not high enough, or if he really doesn't know. However, these are not important for the time being, as long as he can find the Starstone. For Su Wei, it is the biggest victory. The so-called secret compartment is actually a small safe built in the safe house. It is not only equipped with an independent and advanced security system, but also heavily guarded. All biochemical soldiers. The lowest are gold level, and the leader is at king level. Unfortunately, these are not good enough in Su Wei's eyes. However, in order not to alert the enemy temporarily, Su Wei still used the sleepy bug. After knocking down dozens of guards, he swaggered to the door of the secret compartment. Anyway, the security system of the safe house has been controlled by artificial intelligence, and no one will find the abnormality here. As for the independent security system of the secret compartment, with Stevenson in hand, are you still afraid that it can't be opened? After fingerprint and iris authentication, there is also a special key. After inserting it into the keyhole, the door of the secret compartment slowly opens. At the same time, artificial intelligence also instantly invaded the security system of the secret compartment without any effort. Su Wei was greatly disappointed by the safe deposit box of more than 10 square meters. There were only a few items on a few shelves. Too poor ass. Su Wei casually threw Stevenson to a corner of the room. He went forward to check the items on display. Artificial intelligence has taken over here, so there is no need to worry about triggering the alarm. He opened the first metal box and found a broken bone inside. Su Wei is not an expert and was confused. Forget it, I'll collect it first. Thinking of this, Su Wei casually threw the bone into the storage space. He opened the second metal box and found a light blue crystal, as big as an adult's fist. Blue chen gold, nice. Su Wei's eyes glowed green. Such a big lump is more than what he got in the previous 2 times combined. Keep going. Su Wei couldn't wait to open the third metal box. Oh my. What the hell? There was a dried finger inside. However, it can be seen that it does not belong to humans. It is a bit like an elongated chicken claw with long nails on it, which looks extremely ferocious. Su Wei took a look, did not understand it, and threw it directly into the space. Why does this feel like opening a blind box? It's exciting just to think about it. Then the 4th and 5th ones. After opening more than a dozen boxes in a row, I didn't find the star stone I wanted. There are a lot of strange things. What stones engraved with runes, what unknown fossils, what manuscript fragments, and what unsolved mysteries. Su Wei was overwhelmed by it. The only thing he recognized was the potion called the Devil's Blood, but it was obviously much more viscous. Maybe it was the mother liquor for the Devil's Blood potion. Whatever, just put it away first. Then Su Wei cast his eyes on the last metal box. Nice. As the box was opened, Su Wei showed a long-lost smile on his face. There were indeed star stones inside. But unfortunately, there were only 2 palm-sized pieces. This was far less than the number Su Wei expected. It must be several tons, right? But considering that Stevenson said this thing came from outer space, it is not surprising that it is so rare. The question is, if the star stone comes from outer space, how did the Americans get it? Was it during the moon landing? Su Wei couldn't help but think wildly. While thinking, he put the 2 star stones into the space. So far, the entire secret compartment has been emptied. If the Americans knew about this, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to eat for a few days. That's right. Who asked you to ruin my Zhuai Industrial Park? Su Wei walked out on his own. When he passed the door, he couldn't help but stop. Stevenson was still lying there in a coma. After Su Wei thought for a while, he bent down. With a click, he broke Stevenson's neck. He let him pass away peacefully in a coma without feeling any pain. He was the only one who had seen Snapdragon, so he had to die. When he walked out of the secret compartment, the stealth module of the Snapdragon armor was activated. With a swish, Su Wei disappeared again. No one noticed anything unusual until Su Wei walked out of the safe house. After all, the hierarchy here is strict, and everyone can only move in their own area. The consequences of exceeding are very serious, and it may be the price of death. Beep, beep, beep. As soon as Su Wei left the safe house, a shrill alarm sounded inside. Yes, it was Su Wei who asked the artificial intelligence to start the self-destruction program of the reactor. The enemy is coming, quick, close the door. The people who didn't know what was going on suddenly became a mess. The guard at the door faithfully executed the order, closed the heavy metal door, and locked it. This wave of operations made Su Wei stunned. Oh my god. Don't these people check the cause of the alarm? Isn't this equivalent to completely cutting off the life of the people inside? Su Wei swore that his original intention was only to destroy the other party's core database and erase the traces of his visit, and he didn't want to kill everyone inside at all. The most amazing thing is that the guard at the door had a fearless expression on his face. The people inside are probably greeting his ancestors for 18 generations. What a talent. Su Wei couldn't help but give the other party a thumbs up with both hands. It really is, a godlike opponent and a pig-like teammate. After giving the other party a thumbs up, Su Wei immediately accelerated and ran. That's the reactor self-destructing. If you don't run faster, are you waiting to be blown up? At this time, the entire underground base became chaotic. There were alarms everywhere, and everyone was busy with their own affairs. How could anyone pay attention to Su Wei's existence? If the people in the safe house want to get out, they must find Stevenson. Because only with his authorization can the door of the safe house be opened. But when people broke into his office like crazy, they found that the person sitting in the seat was Stevenson's beautiful assistant, wearing Stevenson's coat. Stevenson had disappeared long ago. Isn't this a matter of life and death? Chapter 508, Psychic Attack. The ground was in a mess at this time. Especially the number 3 test site, it was like a hurricane passing through. Almost everything was flattened. But for some reason, the plasma weapon that Stevenson expected failed to start normally. All the guards in the battle fell to the ground, including the strongest alien Crow Jones, who was in charge of Loan Company, who also fell to the ground, and his life or death was unknown. You know, his level is the middle stage of the Emperor. But he is not the opponent of the spirit Ajiro, which shows the strength of his supernatural power. Ajiro, whose figure seemed even fainter, walked step by step towards the two people standing at the end. That was Juvencris and Ajiro's former fiancée Milis. He deliberately left the two people at the end just to swear his hatred. However, at this moment, he was almost at his limit. The battle with the strongest alien Crow Jones exhausted him, so at this moment his figure looked even fainter, almost like a state of existence and non-existence. But he won, defeated the existence that he could not surpass before. And the enemy was right in front of him, and he could kill him with just one finger. However, before killing him, he wanted to vent all the hatred in his heart. "Don't come over here," Juvencris was already scared pale. He never thought that the former Ajiro could become so terrifying. He could even break into the headquarters of Lone Company and kill all the guards who protected them. This is unreasonable, this is unscientific. However, no matter how Juvencris shouted, he could not stop Ajiro's footsteps. He was going crazy and retreated desperately. Unfortunately, he was tripped by a steel pipe and fell heavily to the ground. He could only twist his body desperately and retreat backwards. Seeing Ajiro getting closer and closer, Juvencris let out a desperate wail. "Stop!" At this moment, the pregnant Milis rushed over with all her strength, opened her arms, and blocked Ajiro. Ajiro couldn't help but stop and looked at his former lover with deep sadness in his eyes. Not only did she marry the enemy who had harmed her, but she also had to give birth to a child for him. Now she had to go against herself to protect him. Why? Ajiro's eyes became more and more fierce, which made Milis timid and couldn't help but take a half step back. But for the sake of the child and the child's father, she stood firm again. "Please, please, please let him go, okay?" Milis couldn't help but shed crystal tears from her blue eyes. "She knows who I am." Ajiro was confused and shouted wildly in his heart, but unfortunately he couldn't make a single sound. Because he saw a familiar look in Milis's eyes. "Please, Ajiro." Milis nodded heartbrokenly and responded to Ajiro's confused eyes. At first, she didn't know who this terrifying monster was, but as she got closer and closer, this monster actually made her feel moved. It was too familiar. Only her ex-boyfriend had given her this feeling. So, she concluded that the monster in front of her was her ex-boyfriend Ajiro. Milis' words shocked everyone, including Juventus. Because he was afraid that the matter would be exposed, he never mentioned any information about Ajiro to his wife. She should only know the news that Ajiro died in the battle. But now she recognized the half-human Ajiro at a glance. After all, she still loved him a little more than she loved him. At this moment, Juventus couldn't help but feel boundless jealousy. Roar! Ajiro roared at Milis like a wounded beast, as if asking her to get out of the way. But Milis shook her head with tears in her eyes. By now, she probably guessed something, but the matter was done. What could she do? Ajiro seemed extremely excited. Being obstructed by the person you once loved is the greatest pain. At this moment, it was as if a sharp knife was stabbing in his heart, and every cut was bloody. It was horrible to look at. I'm sorry, Ajiro, I'm so sorry. I know you must have had a hard time these years, but I don't want my child to be without a father, so, please, let him go, okay? We are all sorry for you." "I'm sorry," Milis cried and complained, and at the end, she knelt down directly in front of Ajiro. She really didn't know, but now the matter is done. What can she do? It has to be said that once a woman changes her mind, nothing can change it back. Roar the spirit! Ajiro almost couldn't breathe. If he wasn't in the spirit state, he felt that he would vomit blood directly. Can a few sorries offset the pain he has endured over the years? Can a few sorries offset the unjust death of his parents? Can a few sorries offset the crimes committed by Juventus? If sorry is useful, then what is the use of the police? The frustrated Ajiro had nowhere to vent, and silver electric light appeared on his body, wandering around like a silver snake. You are all unforgivable." Shouting in his heart, Ajiro suddenly accelerated, bypassed Milis, and chased after Juvencris, who was preparing to escape behind her. No, don't. No matter how fast Juvencris was, how could he be faster than Ajiro at this moment? He was caught up in an instant, and his spirit body directly crashed into Juvencris' body. This time, Ajiro did not pass through his body, and at the same time gathered most of his energy. In this way, Juvencris would not die too quickly. He wanted him to experience the pain of burning his heart and gnawing his bones, and then he would kill him slowly. Otherwise, if it was too fast, it would be too easy for him. For a while, the only sound in the venue was Juvencurus's wailing. Curious, Millis woke up from her shock at this time and rushed to her husband like crazy. Juvencurus was only half alive at this moment, but he just couldn't die. He felt as if his internal organs and bones were being burned by a raging fire, being eaten away bit by bit. Every bit of it brought a piercing pain. These pains gathered together, making Juventus feel like dying. Quick, kill me, kill me. Juventus saw Millis coming over, and a strange light suddenly appeared in his eyes. As he opened his mouth to speak, a thin black smoke came out of his mouth. At this moment, the only thing he wanted was to be free. Chapter 509, Reduced to Ashes. Millis watched her husband struggling in pain, but she was helpless. When she heard her husband yelling to kill her, she was frightened and at a loss. On weekdays, she even had difficulty killing a chicken, let alone now she was asked to kill a living person. Kill me, hurry up you stinky bitch. Juventus was in so much pain that he couldn't help but curse. He said all kinds of ugly words, including how he framed Ajiro, how he hired someone to kill Ajiro's parents, and how he used sweet words to trick Millis into marrying him. In fact, all this was just due to jealousy in his heart. Jealous of Ajiro's talent, jealous of Ajiro's happy family, jealous of Ajiro's gentle and beautiful fiancée. So, he secretly swore that he would take away everything from Ajiro. Now he has done it. Hearing this, Millis was stunned. She thought about the reasons why Juventus made mistakes, and there might be some unavoidable difficulties, but she didn't expect it to be so outrageous. Did you hear that, stupid woman? Every time I was with you, I was thinking about revenge on Ajiro. Actually, I don't love you at all. I don't love you. Ha. Looking at the stunned Millis, Juventus continued to shout. He no longer had any hope for her. What he had to do now was to irritate Ajiro in his body and let him give him a quick death. Boom. Sure enough, after hearing those dirty words, Ajiro could no longer bear the anger in his heart, and directly penetrated Juventus' body and took him away. Juventus' body instantly became shriveled and charred. If he stepped on it with his feet at this time, it would definitely make a crisp sound. Woo. Millis, who woke up from the shock, burst into tears instantly. She covered her face with her hands, and had no face to face everything. Ajiro, who had avenged his great revenge, looked at Millis in pain and was a little at a loss. Kill her? But she was the woman he had loved after all. Or let her go? But she was pregnant with the child of her enemy. Go to hell. Monster. Just as Ajiro hesitated, a soldier who was not dead yet roared. He immediately slapped a start switch on the wall. It turned out that he was George, who struggled to crawl to the spare start switch while Ajiro and Millis were entangled in love and hatred. Stevenson's adjutant. As George slapped the start switch, several metal pipes immediately extended from the wall of the number 3 test site, and silver-white electric light shot out from the metal pipes. Millis, Ajiro subconsciously wanted to save people. But the electric light instantly penetrated his body and palm. However, this attack was different from a physical attack. The silver-white electric light, although it penetrated Ajiro's spirit, also caused him damage at the same time. The spirit was riddled with holes, and at the same time transmitted to him incomparable tearing pain. The electric light seemed to shake his entire spirit apart. Ajiro was like this. How could an ordinary person like Millis be spared? The moment he was touched by the electric light, he turned into a puff of ashes. Ajiro couldn't help but wail in pain. With his broken body, he rushed straight towards the half-dead George. Oops, too late. At this time, a low sigh came from the void. It was Su Wei, who came from underground. He saw the situation here from a distance, but unfortunately George had already activated the plasma weapon at that time. Ajiro rushed out of the attack range of the plasma weapon with one breath. At this moment, he was so transparent that he was about to disappear. It means that he was very weak. The next moment, he could no longer maintain his spiritual body and turned back into the physical Ajiro. After turning back into physical body, his body was full of holes and bleeding red blood, which was extremely terrifying. Swish. In the final sprint, Ajiro wanted to insert a hand directly into George's chest. Unfortunately, he was too weak and fell directly at George's feet. He cough. You can't do it either. Monster George's face was full of triumph. Although he lost one hand and one foot, he killed the terrifying monster. He is a hero. He is the great hero who saved Loyant and company. At this moment, George even saw the image of the president of the country awarding him a medal. Boom! At this moment, a shocking loud noise came. The towering building of Loyton headquarters was directly blown away by the explosion. A huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. What? No, looking at the irresistible shock wave sweeping over, George's face was full of fear and disbelief. Where is his medal? Where is his hero medal? A.G. Luo, who fell to the ground, saw the mushroom cloud and the raging shock wave, and the corners of his twisted mouth curled up. He smiled. Until this moment, the person he was most grateful to was still Sue. Even though he knew he was being used as a gun, he was still grateful. Because Sue not only avenged his great hatred, but also made the entire Loyton company bear it with him. It was worth it, I said so much, but it actually took only a moment. Boom, accompanied by the wailing of countless people, the shock wave flattened everything, and the entire Loyton company sank dozens of meters underground. The intense high temperature instantly vaporized the surrounding white snow, revealing a piece of charred soil. Looking from the sky, it was like a black spot burned by a cigarette but on a white carpet. As for Sue, he had already turned on the accelerator and evacuated the center of the explosion. Then he was pushed by the violent shock wave and flew hundreds of meters away. When Sue stopped again, he was already several kilometers away. However, he could still clearly see the flames and black smoke rising from the ruins of Loyton. Sue turned his head and waved in the direction of Loyton. Then, there was a ripple in the air, and Xiaolong disappeared. When the first rescue team arrived at Loyton, everyone was dumbfounded. One of the most powerful weapons manufacturing companies in the United States was turned into scorched earth. It has been less than an hour since the alarm was received. Everyone felt a deep chill in their hearts as they looked at Loyton, which was not even in ruins. Could it have been attacked by a nuclear bomb? The whole United States was in a state of confusion. Because after the incident, they had not received any distress messages from Loyton. The rescue team's alarm was only issued when the artificial early warning aircraft discovered an abnormality during patrol. The Ministry of Defense did not find any external attacks. Everything can only be solved after Loyton's safe house is discovered and the data stored in the host is found. The United States did not care about anger and sadness, and activated all emergency plans, trying its best to cover up the matter of Loyton. Chapter 510, Polar Mystery. However, in less than half a day, the news of the accident at Loyton, the largest weapons design and manufacturing company in the United States, spread throughout the world. It was impossible for the United States to completely conceal such a violent explosion. Satellites of other countries are not vegetarians. If they can't even take pictures of this, then don't say that they have satellites. Based on the scale of the explosion, it is not difficult for experts to calculate how terrible the blow to Loyton was. It is considered a light accident. This is simply a devastating blow. Many people couldn't help but secretly applaud. This will at least make the military power of the United States regress by several years. However, this time the internet was unusually calm. The United States naturally didn't want too many people to know, and blocked all channels of news at the first time, including the northern part of Gas City, which was also placed under military martial law at the first time. Because they believed that the murderer had not left yet, as long as they carefully checked, they could always find some clues. Unfortunately, they were destined to be disappointed. Sue drove the Zaya along and broke through the sound barrier directly and left in a cloud of dust. When the United States completed the blockade, Sue had already left Gas City and flew towards the pole. Yes, his next target is the secret polar base mentioned by Ajiro. This was confirmed by Stevenson. And he knew the name of the secret polar base, Weao. The Starstone also came from there. But Stevenson was not very clear about the specific information, because his level was only responsible for the affairs of Loyton. He had no right to access the information of Weao. After finally finding the whereabouts of the Starstone, how could Sue give up? The 2 Starstones found from Loyton Company were not enough. So Sue went straight to the polar region without stopping. After crossing the polar strait, Sue came to the polar region. There is snow all year round here, and it is frozen for 10,000 years. There is almost no vitality. Looking around, it is a vast expanse of white. Even your eyes will go blind if you look at it for a long time. Ajiro and Stevenson don't know the specific location of the Weao experimental base, and the shunting system also needs some time to investigate the area. After all, it is too cold here, and it will be greatly disturbed if you want to find the target through the heat source. Moreover, the polar climate is harsh, and blizzards may come at any time, which will also interfere with satellite detection. Therefore, Sui could only search aimlessly. Fortunately, there are a large number of power cores in his space, which are enough to make the Snapdragon power armor have unlimited endurance. Even if the base is turned upside down, the WEAO experimental base must be found. After going deep into the Arctic, it was discovered that the vast ice field was also very lively, with polar bears, Arctic foxes, Arctic wolves, Arctic hares, etc. Just because they are all snow white, it is difficult to find them at a glance. Only after careful observation can you find clues of their activities. Sui's Snapdragon armor is in stealth mode, and it is flying in the air, so it did not disturb these animals. It can be seen very clearly that it is active. However, the purpose of Sui's trip is not to come for scientific research, so it basically passes by. The sound of the thruster came faintly. Let these animals living on the ice field prick up their ears and listen carefully. But at this time, the sound disappeared again. For a time, the polar regions were in a panic, and the animals were in a panic. However, Sui flew around the polar regions and found no clues. A blizzard was encountered on the way, which greatly reduced the search range. But after the blizzard, Sui searched the area again, but still found nothing. At this time, the Shinting system also completed a key scan of the polar regions, but still found nothing. Including the nearly 1,000 meters underwater under the permafrost, it was also scanned, but still did not gain anything. It shouldn't be. Is the intelligence wrong? Sui couldn't help but doubt it. But this is impossible. Both Ajiro and Stevenson mentioned the existence of a secret polar experimental base. And Stevenson confessed under the effect of the truth serum. It is impossible to lie. So where is the WEAO experimental base? There is only so much polar circle. With Sui's speed, there will be no omissions, but why is it not there? Could it be? Sui couldn't help but cast his eyes down to his feet. The detection depth of the Shinting system is only about 1,000 meters, but the average depth of the polar sea is more than 1,200 meters, and the deepest point known so far is more than 5,000 meters. Could it be that the WEAO test base is hidden under the sea 1,000 meters deep? Sui couldn't help but make a bold guess. The polar region is surrounded by the ocean and is only covered by about 2 to 3 meters thick sea ice. The movement speed of sea ice can reach 3 km/s. At such a fast speed, any ice will flow out of the Arctic Ocean with sea ice within 2 to 3 years. Moreover, the sea ice in the polar region is prone to breakage and deformation. So let alone the experimental base, even the research station will not be built in the polar region. Instead, it will be built in other places near the polar region. The more Sui thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. But the problem is, how can he find it in this vast ocean? Without the assistance of the Shinting system, he went down there, but he was also in the dark. If he searched alone, he would never find it. Otherwise, he would go to Ji Tongguang and ask him to design a batch of underwater detection robots. However, in this case, I'm afraid I'll have to wait a little longer. Sui thought unwillingly. By the way, the experimental base must need supplies. Even if it's underwater, there will always be a time for bubbling. Thinking of this, Sui suddenly became excited. He quickly adjusted the scanning range and target of the Shinting system. All human targets above and below the water around the entire polar circle were set as monitoring targets. And he just waited there. There are not many humans coming to the polar circle, and most of them are ships for scientific research purposes. Of course, there are also some sneaky military submarines, and I don't know what they are doing. These naturally became the objects of Sui's extra attention. Especially the military submarines of the United States, but it is not ruled out that the U.S. submarines disguised as submarines of other countries. Therefore, once a submarine appears in the surveillance area, it will be firmly stared at by Sui's Shinting system. Hard work pays off. A U.S. deep-water submarine with the word scientific research sprayed on it was locked by Sui. For 3 consecutive days, it almost appeared regularly, but after entering the base circle, it disappeared. The only possibility is that it dived into the water below 1,000 meters. The other ships and submarines were under the surveillance of the Shinting system. So when the USS Maya entered the polar circle again, Sui also jumped into the water. A splash of water appeared out of nowhere, and even if someone saw it, they would only think it was a piece of floating ice that had fallen. Chapter 511 Spaceship. Although the Maya deep-sea submarine changes its route every time it enters the polar circle, it has nowhere to hide from the powerful shunting system. It was soon caught up by Sui, and was directly attached to its surface, drifting with the flow. After entering the polar circle, the Maya cruised around and began to dive all the way. It did not stop until it dived to a depth of 1,500 meters. At this time, the Snapdragon power armor popped up multiple yellow warnings. After all, it is not designed for underwater use, and this depth is full of challenges for it. It seems that the Snapdragon must be upgraded after returning. As Sui thought about this, the Maya suddenly stopped and just hovered in the boundless dark world. However, Sui could see the surrounding environment at a glance. This is a desolate trench. Apart from rocks and seaweed, there are almost no marine life. The surrounding terrain is somewhat intricate, similar to the stone forest on land, making it impossible for people in it to tell the direction. This stop lasted for half an hour. Sui began to doubt whether this submarine was really here for scientific research. Just when Sui was a little impatient, the Maya started again and moved forward in one direction of the trench. After another hour, the Maya submarine rushed out of the trench, and a huge sea pit appeared in front of him. Oh my god, Sui, who was lying on the back of the submarine, was stunned by the scene in front of him. I saw a spaceship lying in this huge sea pit. The volume is as big as several aircraft carriers combined, and half of it is buried in the reefs on the seabed. Its construction style is incompatible with the aesthetics of the Earth. In Sui's opinion, it is simply ugly. The reason why it is called a spaceship is that Sui saw two huge thrusters at the tail, which is definitely the standard for interstellar navigation. He has seen pictures of spaceships in the wasteland world in the Ministry of Science and Technology, and the thrusters are particularly similar. But the dark style covered with spikes in front of him has an evil feeling no matter how he looks at it. Sui hurriedly took a photo of this mysterious thing in front of him. At the same time, the Maya also slowly approached the huge spaceship and carefully drove into a man-made waterway. This was obviously built by humans in the later period and was connected to the spaceship that sank in the sea. At the end of the waterway, the Maya stopped steadily. At this time, the waterway gate behind was closed, forming a closed space. Buzz buzz buzz, the equipment started to operate, pressing the seawater in this closed space out. At the same time, the Maya was also draining water synchronously. When half of the seawater was drained and a platform was exposed, the equipment stopped running. The Maya was also floating steadily in the water, with only half of it exposed above the water. Click, a metal door on the wall of the waterway opened, and a team of fully equipped guards walked out from it. They were all composed of aliens, and their levels were not low, basically reaching the gold level. They quickly came to the side of the platform and controlled a bracket to dock with a Maya submarine. At this time, the hatch cover of the Maya submarine was also opened from the inside. A white-skinned middle-aged man climbed out first. Several people crawled out from behind him, both men and women. And they were quite strong. The weakest one was also at the platinum level. The white-skinned middle-aged man who led the group even reached the level of the Emperor. This forced Sui to be cautious. He didn't want to alert the enemy before he found the Starstone. General Gale. Hello. A man in the guards team leader's gear saluted the white-skinned middle-aged man who led the group. Hello, is General McKillen here? The white-skinned middle-aged man called General Gale returned the salute and asked the man who led the group. Yes, General. The man who led the group stood at attention and answered. Although these people were aliens, they were well-behaved and disciplined. They were very different from the aliens Sui had seen before. And the combat uniforms they wore were embroidered with a sea blue shield. Could they be the legendary, another mysterious force in the United States, SHIELD? Hey. Wait, Gale? I seem to have heard of this name somewhere before? Ah. I remember now, this guy is the boss of the Avengers. Sui suddenly remembered that in Huatu City, on the night when the Dragon King of Huatu rose, he captured an alien. Pavaps, the captain of the Avengers Dark Angel team. He talked to Gale on the phone at that time. However, he ignored him. I didn't expect to meet him here. This world is really small. Sui couldn't help but marvel. While thinking, Gale had already led people inside. Sui hurried to catch up. After passing through a dark corridor, he entered a magical space. It was all made of an unknown metal. The simple and rough style reminded people of the appearance of a spaceship covered with spikes. This should be the interior of the spaceship. There is a very strict guard here. Almost every few steps, there is an alien wearing a SHIELD uniform. At the same time, there are a large number of monitoring systems. Fortunately, the Snapdragon power armor worn by Su Wei can block most of the detection, so those special cameras are nothing to him. The only thing to worry about is aliens with telepathic abilities like a Jiro. Luckily, there were no dangers along the way. Su Wei followed Gale and the others and went straight to a laboratory. It can be seen that this is a laboratory built by the Americans themselves in the spacecraft. Because the building materials and style are exactly the same as those of Lointon, Su Wei can tell at a glance. In the laboratory, many scientists are busy doing experiments. There are also some SHIELD guards escorting important materials, coming and going. It seems very busy. No one would have thought that such a unique American laboratory is hidden in the depths of the Polar Sea. Among them, Su Wei saw someone preparing a scarlet liquid, perhaps the potion called the Devil's Blood. After confirming their identities, Gale and others were allowed to enter the laboratory. Gale did not stay for long and walked directly to an independent laboratory. He was familiar with the road, and it was obvious that he had been here more than once. Dong dong. Although it was a fully transparent glass door and even the walls were transparent, Gale still knocked politely. Two people were standing in the laboratory, originally discussing something. They were attracted by the knock on the door, so they stopped and looked out the door together. "Come in, Gale, my old friend, what brings you here today?" The middle-aged man in the SHIELD guard uniform immediately walked to the door to express his welcome. The other old man in a white coat, white hair and white beard stood there without moving, watching Gale's arrival expressionlessly. Those who came with Gale could only stand outside the door and wait. Chapter 512 Tracking. Mikillen, long time no see. How are you? Gale reached out and held Mikillen's hand. The two were once comrades in arms and had a deep friendship. However, after they were in charge of SHIELD and Avengers, they met less and less. Because the WEAO experimental base is more important to the United States than life, so SHIELD's headquarters was directly set up here, doing its best to protect WEAO's safety. Eat well and sleep well, it couldn't be better. Mikillen reached out and patted Gale's shoulder, smiling. Compared with Gale's roughness, Mikillen looked more bookish. If he wasn't wearing a SHIELD uniform, he would have thought he was a civilian. Oh my god, another Emperor level. Su Wei, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Mikillen. He had to be more careful. "Hello, Drai Yingling." Gale nodded at Mikillen, and then turned to greet the old man in a white coat beside him. "Hello, General Gale." The old man in the white coat nodded to Gale, and then went to fiddle with the things in his hands. "Gale, what are you here for this time? Is it about Lointon?" Getting back to the point, Mikillen asked Gale. Although the WEAO experimental base exists independently, the previous batches of personnel have brought the news that Loin Company was destroyed. And at the first time, the alert level for WEAO was raised. "Well, so far, no relevant clues have been found," Gale said with a frown. Lointon Company was destroyed, not even a hair was left. The safe house that was once known as the safest in the United States has been dug up, but unfortunately, it was directly blown up from the inside. Until now, no one has been found alive. But the cause of the explosion has been found, not from the outside, but from the inside. The reactor in the safe house. If it is said to be an accident, no one will believe it. But the question is, how did the enemy break through the layers of checkpoints, reach the bottom layer of security, and destroy it? No one will believe it if it is said. At the level of the world today, no one can sneak into Loin quietly without being discovered. Another point. The security patrol plane captured the scene of the Loin Company's defense system blooming. That means that before the accident, there was indeed an enemy invading Lointon. But why didn't Lointon ask for help from the outside world in the first place? In addition, whether it was an invasion or a sneak attack, where were the enemies? There was no trace. Even if the enemy had been destroyed along with Loin Company, such an enemy was too terrifying. No one could be sure how many there were. If the other party targeted the octagon, the symbol of power in the United States, Gale asked himself that he could not defend against it. So this is why he did not go to AO today. "What do you want to do?" Mikillen asked bluntly. In fact, he had already guessed the old comrade's plan. It's just that he saw through it but didn't say it. "I want to ask Mr. Alden to trace back the scene at that time," Gale said his plan helplessly. Now this matter has made the United States tighten all the strings. If you are not careful, it will cause extremely serious consequences. Have you thought it through? Even if you ask, Mr. Alden may not agree. Killen's expression also became a little depressed. Because he knew that his old comrade would not choose this move unless he had no other choice. Of course. I also brought a petition from Congress. This is a manuscript signed by the president himself, Gale continued. It can be heard that this is not his original intention. I see. Then let's go and meet Mr. Alden now, Killen said and walked out of the laboratory. Gale nodded to the busy Drai Yingling before turning around and leaving. Drai Yingling seemed to notice something and looked up, but only saw Gale's back. He didn't say anything and continued to concentrate on his work. But when he raised his hand, his sleeve slipped down, revealing a part of his arm. In an inconspicuous place, there was a three-color Ouroboros tattoo. All this happened to fall into Sue's eyes. After searching for a long time, it was easy to get it. So Sue decided to stay for a while. He quietly released a miniature electronic monitor and put it on Gale. It was only the size of a mosquito, but it could clearly transmit images and sounds back. Like the Phantom, it was one of the spy suits in the wasteland. Because he heard Gale mention the ability of tracing. He must be a guy with super perception, and he didn't want to take the risk, so it was better to let the machine do it. As for the doctor with a three-color Ouroboros tattoo in front of him, he would naturally not let him go. He must ask about the information of the Wichuang organization. But the problem is that the walls here are transparent, and there are guards outside. Every move in the laboratory will be seen by the guards. In addition, there are surveillance cameras everywhere, so Sue really has no idea where to start. But there is still a chance. In addition to disguising itself, the Phantom can also make holographic projections. As long as the holographic image of Drai Yingling is recorded, and then it is replaced at the right opportunity, it can be done without anyone noticing. After all, there are many experimental tables and cabinets in the laboratory that can block part of the line of sight. As long as the surveillance cameras in the laboratory are hacked, these places will form blind spots of vision and will not be noticed by the guards outside. Sue is skilled and bold, and he does what he wants. He sent out another microelectronic monitor to shoot videos of Drai Yingling in all directions, and the data and images transmitted back were immediately formed in the illusion. At the same time, Sue was not idle. He took out the signal needle and inserted it into a data cable. The artificial intelligence quickly found the host controlling the laboratory monitoring system along the data cable. Everything was ready, but Sue paused. Because Gale had arrived. It was a dark room, with dark green lights, dyeing the surroundings with a miserable green. The room was large, but most of it was occupied by rows of shelves, and there were many glass tubes on each shelf. Each glass tube was filled with red liquid. Could it be the devil's blood? Sue was a little confused. Then, Gale and Killen jumped over the rows of shelves and came to the center of the room. There was a regular equilateral triangle table here. There were some buttons on the table, and there were some strange symbols on the buttons. There was a circular groove in the center of the triangle. Soon, Sue discovered that the triangular table and the spaceship were one. Sitting cross-legged on the ground in front of the table was a dry old man, with a thin body and skinny body. His cheeks were like a mummy. In this dark environment, it looked particularly terrifying. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 513 Blood Source. Mr. Alden. The two stood 5 meters away, and Killen called out softly, as if afraid of disturbing something. Following Killen's call, the skinny old man slowly opened his eyes. He was the purpose of Gale's trip, Alden. Oh my. Heavenly Deo level. Even through the camera, Sue couldn't help but be shocked. Just because the moment Alden opened his eyes, a ray of light directly penetrated his heart. It was as if he was naked. Whether it was the body or the soul, it would be seen clearly. At this time, not only Sue, but also Killen and Gale, the two emperors, also felt a sense of silence. Facing this ancient alien, they were like descendants, and there was a natural sense of fear. Gale, long time no see. Alden's voice was a little ethereal, and it sounded like a dream. Nice to meet you, Mr. Alden, Gale greeted with a pious face. In fact, He thought in his heart that it would be better not to see him again. Because every time he saw Alden, he felt uncomfortable. You probably don't want to see me. Tell me, what's the matter? Let's not waste each other's time, Alden said with a smile on his face. But his appearance was like a mummy, so his smile was very weird. It was creepy. Mr. Alden, Luoy and Company was destroyed. We can't find any clues, so I would like to ask you to help trace what happened at that time. After Gale smiled awkwardly, he quickly explained his intention and took out a letter from his pocket. This is the manuscript of the petition signed by the President of the United States. Alden didn't say anything after listening, but stretched out his hand and hooked it, and the letter in Gale's hand automatically flew to his hand. A green light flashed in his hand, and the letter that he didn't even look at turned into a pile of paper ashes. This was not shattered, nor was it burned by fire, but it seemed to have decayed directly after countless years. So strong, Su Wei saw this scene through the camera and couldn't help but admire it. This was the first time he had seen such an ability. Mr. Alden seeing the petition destroyed, Gale was surprised and wanted to ask the other party for clarification, but was stopped by Alden's gesture. No need to look at it, I agree, Alden nodded in agreement, which was unusual. This made Gale feel flattered. Thank you very much. Gale was stunned for a moment before thanking him quickly. You're welcome, Lloyd and Company and we are of the same blood. Now it has something wrong, we are naturally responsible. In fact, I am also curious about the result, Alden said generously. Then thank you, Mr. Alden. Mikilin and Gale bowed to Alden together. If I remember correctly, the one stationed in Lewontin is Crow Jones. Alden slowly nodded to confirm with Gale. Yes, sir, Gale nodded and replied. Alden hummed, then stopped talking and waved his hands in the air. The surrounding shelves suddenly began to rotate and move, making people dizzy. Found it? After a while, Alden suddenly spoke. Then, the moving shelves suddenly stopped, and a glass tube flew up from one of the shelves and slowly fell into Alden's hands. He was having a lot of fun taking things from the air. If you look closely, you will find that there is a small label on the glass tube, and it is written with Crow Jones' name. Blood, it's really a good thing. Alden looked at the scarlet liquid in the glass tube in his hand and said with a fascinated face. This is actually the blood of an alien. As he said that, he stood up from the ground. He scratched one end of the glass tube with a sharp nail, and the glass tube broke into two pieces. Alden poured the blood in the tube into the circular groove in the middle of the triangular table. The amount of blood just filled it up. Then, Alden scratched one of his fingers with his nails, and after squeezing for a long time, he squeezed out a drop of blood that was so thick that it was stringy, and it dripped into Crow Jones' blood. Then, he placed his hands on the triangular table, and a scarlet light flashed in his eyes. The green light on his hand flickered. The buttons on the triangular table were lit up at once and began to flash in an orderly manner. The blood in the middle groove slowly began to boil, and a scarlet mist rose. Above the triangular table, a piece of something similar to a holographic image was formed. As the scarlet mist became thicker and thicker, the image presented became clearer. If you look closely, you will find that it was the scene when Crow Jones and Agillo faced off at Lloyd and Company. Test site number 3 was wantonly ravaged by the two. Because Agillo first cleared the guards, the plasma weapon was not activated. In the duel, Crow Jones was careless for a moment and half of his body was eroded by Agillo. Fortunately, his heart was fine for the time being. But he also became a dying man who was lingering on. However, this is a good record of everything that happened later. The images of Agillo roaring at the Juve-Curious couple and George desperately activating the plasma weapon followed one after another. In the end, a huge mushroom cloud rose from the ground, and then everything turned into nothingness. After doing all this, Alden's forehead was sweating, but he truly restored the whole process of the last moments before the destruction of Lloyd. Who is he? Alden readjusted the buttons on the triangular table, and the figure fighting with Crow Jones was separated separately. His name is Agillo, and he is the experimental subject called Zero. Gale looked at this image and was also surprised. Although Agillo is special, it is impossible for him to destroy Lloyd by himself. Is it the experimental subject who has become a polluter but has independent consciousness? Alden's face was enlightened after hearing this. Agillo is the failed product that WEAO sent away. Although he was found to be special in the Bloody Castle, he is still just a defective product to WEAO. Luo Yington's research on him was authorized by them. Yes, it's him, but he is far from being able to fight against Crow Jones. What's going on? Gale was confused. Ajiro's other abilities were not worth mentioning except for his ability to sense danger. He was only good at hiding and escaping, and there was no way he could face off against Crow Jones, who was at the level of the Emperor. Chapter 514 More Doubts. Watch carefully. Ajiro is not a physical entity, but a special energy body, so it's not difficult to judge. He has gained a new adventure. He has mutated into very strong ability. Alden manipulated the strange holographic image, looked at Ajiro, and then concluded. After careful comparison, Mikilin and Gale also found the difference. Although this strange holographic image is only scarlet blood, just like a black and white painting, only the shade is used to distinguish the difference. But it is obvious that Ajiro's image is much lighter than others. And from the action, he is like in a state of weightlessness. No, it should be that he is like he has no weight. Therefore, when fighting with Crow Jones, he was able to escape from his killing moves repeatedly. In addition, his strange possession attack makes people hard to defend. Judging from the bullets shot by the guards penetrating his body, he is completely immune to physical attacks. Judging from the effect of Crow Jones's blast energy attack, the damage caused to him is not too great. This is simply the physique of a perfect weapon. Although superpowers can be awakened suddenly, but how strong is this? If I remember correctly, when he escaped from the laboratory, he was only a low-level alien. It's only been a few months. How is it possible to gain the strength to fight against high-level aliens? Gale asked with a complicated expression. It is common for superpowers to awaken, but it takes a long time to accumulate one's own energy. This Ajiro obviously violates the common sense of aliens. That's why I want to know. Alden did not answer, because he didn't know. Please tell me all the information about Ajiro, especially all the information records after he escaped from Law and Company. Alden stared at Gale. This inconspicuous little guy has successfully attracted his attention. Not only because of the sudden increase in strength, but also because of the existence of that special energy body. He saw some powerful possibilities. Sorry, sir, you may need to ask my adjutant. Gale was embarrassed and stunned on the spot. Ajiro is just a small character. Although he has extremely special characteristics, he still has not entered the continuous attention of the top management. It was just the initial novelty that made the top management remember him. As the subsequent research did not make any progress, Ajiro naturally faded out of the top management's vision. If he had not successfully escaped from Loyton, he would have been forgotten long ago. Oh, how long do we have to wait? Alden was obviously a little dissatisfied. Sir, my adjutant is outside, Gale replied quickly. Then ask him to come in and talk. After taking a last look at Ajiro's image, Alden turned off his supernatural power. The triangular table also stopped working at the same time and returned to its previous state. The blood in the central groove had disappeared without a drop left. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, you would have thought nothing had happened. What a magical ability. Looking at Alden's figure again, is it because he has done too much blood tracing? That's why he looks so skinny. Just as Sue was making random guesses, Gale walked in with a young white-skinned and white-haired man. He was Gale's adjutant, Chulson. Hello, Mr. Alden. As soon as Chulson came in, he saluted Alden with some fear. You're welcome, tell me. Alden waved his hand and asked straight to the point. He believed that Gale had explained everything clearly when he went out. Yes, sir. After Ajiro escaped from the laboratory of Law and Company, his first goal was to go home. Chulson immediately told the details of Ajiro's escape. As Gale's adjutant, he naturally shared the work for Gale. He happened to be directly responsible for Ajiro's affairs, so the information was very detailed. Everything sounded very reasonable. The only special thing was that a few days before Ajiro attacked Loyton, the teams sent to capture him lost contact one after another. Chulson had to send more experts to capture him. The last time, a high-level alien led the team. However, they lost contact in the end. However, before Chulson reported it, Loyton suffered a devastating blow. Gale was sent to the scene in person. So, this matter was temporarily interrupted. After all, what could be more important than finding out the real murderer who destroyed Loyton? I just didn't expect that the key to this was actually on Ajiro. If Chulson could report to Gale in the first place, there might be a chance of a turnaround. However, it's too late to say anything now. How many days are you talking about in the last few days? After a short silence, Alden asked expressionlessly. About 4 or 5 days, Chelson answered uncertainly. The air suddenly fell into silence. I thought a few months was already very short, but I didn't expect that it was only a few days. After all, in the previous pursuit, Agillo had only fled. If he had been hiding, he should have exploded when he knew that his parents did not die in an accident, and he would not have waited until Juventus applied for protection before taking action. So, all this information proves that Agillo only took about 5 days to complete the awakening of his new superpowers and the accumulation of energy. This is absolutely unprecedented. It would be great if there was Agillo's blood. Then we can know what he has experienced. Unfortunately, Agiro was just a minor character before and was not included in the blood collection. Gale, this is all I can help you with, the rest depends on you to track down. After a long time, Alden spoke. His tone seemed a little exhausted. After speaking, he sat back on the ground and closed his eyes, like an old monk in meditation. Thank you very much. Gale bowed to Alden on the ground again, then slowly turned around and walked out of the room with his adjutant. Mikilin glanced at Alden and followed Gale's footsteps. Click. The door of the room closed automatically, and the room fell into silence again. Alden, like an old monk in meditation, opened his eyes at this time, looked at the direction where Gale and others left, and showed a meaningful smile. Gale, are you leaving? Walking out of the room, Mikilin looked for topics to relieve some of the boredom. Although he found a relevant person, he was still confused and had many doubts. No one could be happy. Yet, let's go. There are still many things to investigate. Gale rubbed his forehead to cheer himself up. I'll take you there, Mikilin said, and led them to the port where the submarine was docked. Chapter 515 to be continued. Seeing the end of the performance, Su Wei started a new performance. He had to get as much information about Wichuang from Drai Yingling as possible before Mikilin came back. Now, he was getting more and more curious about this mysterious and ancient organization. Coincidentally, Drai Yingling leaned over to get something from under the experimental table. Su Wei immediately went over and knocked him out. Then he turned on the magic with the adjusted angle. A holographic projection of Drai Yingling stood up from behind the experimental table and continued his work. However, at this moment, he was not taking anything, but just pretending to think and writing and drawing on the table. This is a holographic image simulated by artificial intelligence based on the image just recorded. As long as you don't get close to touch it, you can't detect its authenticity. As for the monitoring in the laboratory, it is naturally a real-time synchronous simulation model. Let the guards in the monitoring room see everything normal. The real Drai Yingling had already been covered with a cloak by Su Wei, and a small space was built under the cover of the experimental table. Using the force field shield, even the sound was blocked inside. At the same time, a micro-monitor was placed on the door of the laboratory, monitoring the surroundings. If someone tries to enter the laboratory, it will warn Su Wei. After everything was arranged, Su Wei directly poured the truth serum into Drai Yingling. Then, he woke him up. Drai Yingling went into a state of confusion. Who are you? Su Wei asked. I am Ai Yingling Misan. Drai Yingling had a wooden expression, but he answered every question. Do you know Wichuang? Su Wei asked. Yes, Drai Yingling continued to answer. Wichuang is the abbreviation of the creator of the dimension, and its history can be traced back to 100 years ago. The founder is Alden Misan, who is in charge here. Yes, they are two brothers. Alden is the elder brother and Ai Yingling is the younger brother. Both of them are more than 100 years old. Alden didn't say it, but Drai Yingling looked only in his 50s. This is because they have the first generation of demon blood, which can greatly increase their lifespan while strengthening them. Although Alden looks like he's dying, he is actually the strongest. He had reached the level of Heavenly Deo decades ago. No one knows how strong he is now. It can only be described as unfathomable. This story started more than 100 years ago. At that time, the two brothers were in their prime. The elder brother Alden liked adventure, while the younger brother Ai Yingling liked to study new things. The biggest wish of the two was to go on adventures all over the continent and find new things to study. Finally, that year, the two got what they wanted. After bidding farewell to their family, the two brothers set out on the road together. They visited many places that were rumored and saw many strange things at that time. By chance, the brothers obtained a strange triangular stone flake. The strange thing is that no one knows what it is made of, and it doesn't look like something produced naturally. After all, It is impossible for such a regular equilateral triangular stone flake to appear in nature. And there are some decorations on it that look like patterns, but they are actually some kind of text. The brothers were immediately attracted by the stone flake and started to study it. But the conditions at that time were limited and it was impossible to determine its composition. After searching all the manuscripts with recorded languages, they still couldn't find the corresponding symbols. In this way, the two brothers spent almost all their savings for the stone. Just when the two brothers were about to go home and raise new funds from their family, Alden accidentally dropped his blood on the stone. The stone immediately reacted, and a boy appeared, and a light guide. No matter which direction it faced, the light still pointed to a fixed direction. Just like a compass. Soon, AI Yingling realized that this thing might be a coordinate locator, and the boy guided by the light was the destination. With such a guess, the two brothers could no longer sit still. They didn't even go home, but went on the road directly to search in the direction guided by the light. When they ran out of money, they sold all the valuable things on their bodies. This target point, like a succubus, attracted them. Finally, after nearly a year, the two brothers followed the guidance of the mysterious triangular stone and came to the vicinity of the pole. Along the way, the two brothers took turns to donate blood to keep it working normally. At this moment, they have become much thinner. Facing the vast ocean, the two brothers were somewhat dumbfounded. They had to spend all their money to rent a large ship to carry them to the poles. The polar climate is so bad that even now, accidents are still possible. Not to mention the conditions at that time. Along the way, after going through untold hardships, when they were about to reach the poles, a sudden snowstorm destroyed their ship. Everyone was swallowed by the sea. However, the two brothers seemed to be blessed by God and were thrown onto the polar ice. Just when the two were about to be frozen to death, the mysterious triangular stone piece vibrated violently. When they took it out and looked at it, the guiding light had overlapped with a boy. It meant that they had arrived. This undoubtedly injected endless motivation into the brothers. Even if they died, they had to take a look. What on earth was it? So, the two struggled desperately to get up. Soon, a large metal object was found in a nearby ice cave. It looked like a rhombus made of two regular triangles combined together, with a door, but it was empty inside. There was nothing else. The two brothers were suddenly hopeless. With a mentality of dying, they laid down. At least, they could be a little warmer before dying. But at this moment, the elder brother Alden found a dial with runes on one side of the wall. The symbols on it were the same as those on the mysterious triangular stone. Without saying a word, Alden bit his finger and smeared the blood on it. Not to mention, it was fixed again. The metal rhombus started immediately, wrapped the two brothers, and then with a puff, it drilled through the ice and fell into the sea. At first, the brothers thought they were saved. They couldn't help but cheer. But soon they couldn't be happy. Because the rhombus went straight to the deep sea, and at a very fast speed. It sank hundreds of meters in an instant. Looking at the dark sea around them, the brothers began to worry. They knocked and searched everywhere, trying to find a way to control the metal rhombus. Unfortunately, things went against their wishes and there was no progress. The rhombus sank deeper and deeper, directly to the deep sea of nearly 1,000 meters. The two brothers, who were completely in the dark, collapsed immediately. They both fainted from fear, panic, cold and hunger. Chapter 516 Follow-up. When the brothers woke up again, they were in the current spaceship. However, the spaceship was severely damaged at that time, and only a small part of the area still had air. This allowed the Alden brothers to survive. Here, they found the body of an alien, which was kept in a life support capsule. It was unknown how long it had been, but it was still as vivid as if it was alive. The two brothers, who had no way to go up to heaven or down to earth, actually used the body of the alien as food in order to survive. How hungry must they be to eat it? In this way, the brothers mutated and became the first aliens on this planet. Alden awakened the ability of blood tracing. He saw some pictures of the alien they devoured before he died. There happened to be a picture of blood tracing using a triangular table. It turned out that the alien's ability was also blood tracing. Alden perfectly inherited its ability. As for AI Yingling, except for the strengthening of various aspects of his body, he did not have an outstanding awakening, but this provided unlimited motivation for his research. On the aliens, they also found an original demon's blood. Of course, this name was given by Dr. AI Yingling. Because the aliens they found had hideous faces, like demons from hell. And the picture shows that this potion was made by aliens using their own blood and some special substances. So it was called demon's blood. Although this thing can rapidly improve the strength of humans, it has a fatal flaw, that is, the human body will collapse because it cannot withstand it. As for why the two brothers were able to withstand the blood of aliens, this has always been a mystery. However, based on the demon's blood, Drai Yingling developed the genetic modification potion. The potion uses the blood of Alden and Ai Yingling. By analogy, the genetic modification potion has produced many generations. Of course, the effect is worse the later the generation. Not only is the probability of awakening greatly reduced, but the awakened abilities are mostly mediocre. As time goes by, the aliens also reproduce offspring. As expected, most of the offspring of aliens also have the physique of aliens. Some are born with certain abilities, which is called innate awakening. Others awaken certain abilities during their growth, which is called acquired awakening. Regardless of innate or acquired, they are all members of the alien species. Until today, the United States had to set up S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers to manage the alien species. There is also an episode in this. That is, at first, the two brothers supported SYNOPSIS and created wars in order to obtain a large amount of funds to repair spacecraft and conduct related research. They obtained a lot of money and resources from the war. In order to help SYNOPSIS win, the brothers provided some interpreted alien technology to SYNOPSIS scientists. They created batches of mysterious and powerful weapons. Some powerful countries at that time were defeated. However, the good times did not last long. SYNOPSIS' expansion and enemies on all sides put the SYNOPSIS dynasty into crisis and eventually defeated. Without a source of capital, Alden changed his strategy and became the boss of Wasteland. And using genetic modification drugs and some high tech, they knocked on the door of the United States. They became their guests of honor. It can be said that the rise of American technology is inseparable from Wasteland. At the same time, the United States also provided Wasteland with endless capital and resources. Let the WEAO base develop to its current scale. With a continuous research on this alien spacecraft, the truth of the incident gradually surfaced. According to the records of the spacecraft recorder, they were originally escorting an important person to a planet called Orlando to perform a mission. But halfway, they encountered time and space turbulence and accidentally fell to the Earth. The spacecraft was severely damaged, only one alien survived, and the important person escorted was unfortunately seriously injured. The surviving alien had to go out for rescue. So he put the seriously injured important person into the only life support capsule, hoping to wait for the arrival of rescue. He himself took a small landing capsule to leave the mothership and floated to the surface of the sea. What happened next is unknown. I think the alien encountered an accident. Otherwise, the signal indicator would not have ended up in the hands of the Alden brothers. And the following events would not have happened. By mistake, Alden activated the emergency recoil mode of the landing capsule, so the landing capsule automatically flew back to the mothership. It also brought the Alden brothers to the crashed spacecraft. It created a legend. Unfortunately, this spacecraft is just an ordinary transport ship, and its mission is to escort people. So it does not have much technological content. In addition, it is severely damaged, so the technology that can be interpreted is even less and not comprehensive. But even so, SYNOPSIS still swept through several major powers and almost became the world's #1. After SYNOPSIS' failure, it made the United States technology rise again, leading the world by decades. It can be seen how powerful it is. Therefore, the United States attaches so much importance to WEAO. It constantly sends elites to help Drai Yingling conduct research. It constantly provides funds and resources to transform and repair the crashed spacecraft. It is to hope to crack more powerful technology and let the United States directly soar into the sky. After hearing this, Su Wei was stunned. It was as amazing as watching a blockbuster movie. Originally, he got the teleportation ring, which was already mysterious enough. Unexpectedly, there was such an unknown history hidden. It simply overturned his 3 views and cognition. No wonder some strange things were made. It turned out that they were all based on alien technology. Awesome. Aliens, biochemical soldiers, polluters, and destroyers are also products based on alien technology. Is this considered a species invasion? Su Wei couldn't help but think so. According to this calculation, are they Earthlings? Or aliens? Or nothing? This is a problem? Forget it, I'm not a biologist, so why bother with classification? Su Wei didn't care much about it. Aliens or alien technology? These are not his focus. What he needs now is starstone and blue chen gold. The more the better. Just when Su Wei was about to ask about the whereabouts of the two substances, an early warning came from the micro-monitor. Su Wei looked and saw that it was Mikilin who had sent Gale away and was now returning. I'm almost at the door of the laboratory. What should I do? Give up halfway? Or kill Mikilin as well? Chapter 517 Twists and Turns. At the critical moment, a hint of murderous intent flashed in Su Wei's eyes. He was determined to get the starstone and blue chen gold. Since Mikilin broke in by himself, he would not be polite. Although he was not sure that he could kill an emperor level silently in such an environment, he was sure that he could still act calmly if he was discovered. If stealing secretly fails, then rob openly. It's not a big deal. While thinking, Su Wei covered Ai Yinglin with an invisible cloth. He quietly lurked at the door, prepared to wait for Mikilin to come in and give him a fatal blow. Mikilin walked towards the laboratory with firm steps. In a blink of an eye, he was outside the door and put his face close to the iris recognition device to prepare for identity authentication. General Mikilin, Mr. Alden, please come over. At this moment, a shield guard trotted up behind Mikilin. Yes, got it. Mikilin raised his head after hearing that. Then, he turned around and walked towards the entrance of the passage just now. Chewie, you're lucky, Su Wei couldn't help but complain in his heart. Watching Mikilin leave, Su Wei returned to Ai Yinglin again and asked about the whereabouts of the starstone and blue chenjin. It turned out that blue chenjin was one of the items carried by the escorted alien. The total amount was not much, only about 2 kilograms. After these years of experiments, there was not much left. It was in the safe of this laboratory, and there were about a few hundred grams. This made Su Wei very disappointed. The power of blue chenjin is obvious to all. If blue chenjin can be used to make mechas, the combat power of the Black Phoenix must be directly off the charts. Now, with a small plate found in Luo Yingtan, the total amount is less than 1 kilogram. In addition to being able to upgrade the Xiaolong armor, it doesn't seem to be of much use. However, Ai Yinglin's next words made Su Wei overjoyed. That is, there are a lot of starstones. It filled up a warehouse on the spacecraft. At least tens or hundreds of tons. In the past, we didn't know its function, so we just put it there like garbage. Now that we find that it can control polluters, it has been taken seriously again. But because polluters don't distinguish between friend and foe, they are rarely used now. Therefore, the starstone is basically still idle. Hearing such news, how could Su Wei still be calm? He used Ai Yinglin's identity information to open the safe, took out the last blue chen gold, and put it into the space like a treasure. As for those genetic modification drugs, no matter which generation, they are all garbage in Su Wei's eyes. Apart from other things, the side effects are too great. But Su Wei didn't hesitate and put them all into the space. Who made you offend me? Even if you don't use it, I can't leave it to you. It's okay to let it moldy. I just won't let you use it. I'll make you angry to death. Su Wei thought happily, and then used the same trick again. He wrapped Ai Yinglin with the invisible cloth, and then picked up the phantom on the table. The holographic projection of Dr. Ai Yinglin walked towards the door. The glass door would open naturally when it sensed the real Ai Yinglin. So, in the eyes of the guards, Ai Yinglin walked out of the laboratory and headed towards the warehouse where the starstones were stored. Open the door. When he arrived in front of the warehouse where the starstones were stored, Su Wei used a voice changer to imitate Ai Yinglin's voice and ordered. Yes, doctor. Several guards did not doubt him. They immediately opened the heavy warehouse door a little. Guard this place. No one is allowed to enter without my consent. Su Wei continued to speak with a voice changer. Yes, doctor. The guards immediately stood at attention and answered. As the second in command of Wei Chuang and the chief scientist of Weil Base, Ai Yinglin's reputation is still very high. Yet, Su Wei nodded with satisfaction, and then walked into the warehouse. Sure enough, the warehouse was full of starstones of all sizes. The big ones were as big as millstones, and the small ones were as big as fists. After a round and confirming that there were no surveillance cameras, Su Wei began to harvest them. The starstones in the room were decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this moment, even if the gods came, they could not stop Su Wei's determination to collect the starstones. Soon, all the starstones in the room were collected by Su Wei. Looking at the empty room, Sue took out a magic illusion with a sly smile and placed it on the ground in the middle. Soon, the starstones in the room appeared again. Of course, this is just a holographic image. However, it is still difficult to find it if you just observe it with the naked eye. Finally, a self-destruct program is implanted in the magic illusion. When the time is up, the battery inside will automatically short-circuit, and then generate huge heat and self-ignite, and then burn other parts. After doing this, Sue manipulated Drai Yingling, who is in the holographic image, to leave the warehouse. Watching the guard slowly close the door of the warehouse, Sue turned around and left. So far, the trip to the polar region has been a complete success. Mr. Alden, are you looking for me? Just as Sue was heading to the Starstone warehouse, Mikillin returned to the dark room and saw Alden sitting cross-legged on the ground. Hearing the voice, Alden opened his eyes and stared at Mikillin, but did not speak. Sir, what is this? Mikillin was stunned. Don't understand what Alden meant? I need you to help me get something. After a long time, Alden slowly spoke. What is it? Mikillin was stunned. Ajiro's blood, Alden said, and couldn't help but lick the dry corner of his mouth with his long scarlet tongue. He looked like he was drooling. Sir, did I hear it wrong? Ajiro, is it the Ajiro we just discussed? Mikillin asked in shock. Of course, Alden nodded undeniably. But, sir, Lane has been destroyed, and all the experimental data and samples about Ajiro have been lost. Moreover, Ajiro was originally determined to be a polluter, and the WEAO base also took blood samples, so Ajiro's blood sample should be gone, Mikillin explained helplessly. He couldn't say, hey, Alden, are you old and confused? No, in this world, there is another place where you can find Ajiro's blood, Alden said as usual. Bloody Castle, Mikillin suddenly came to his senses. Although the Bloody Castle only imprisoned people and did not conduct scientific research. But Ajiro's abnormality was discovered in the Bloody Castle, and maybe there really are blood samples left. Well, Alden nodded with relief. Mr. Alden. Why don't you go directly to Gale and the others for this matter? Mikillin had a new question. Walls have ears, the fewer people who know about this, the better, so, I hope you go to the Bloody Castle in person, Alden said and closed his eyes again. Okay, as you wish, Mr. Alden. Mikillin's eyes tightened, and then he turned and walked out. After a click, the room returned to its previous darkness and silence. Chapter 518, Transformation. After taking the Starstone, Sue took Ai Yingling away from the WEAO base. Of course, Ai Yingling had turned into a cold corpse at this moment, floating quietly in Sue's storage space. The gene modification agent was developed by this guy. The polluters produced are infinitely close to zombies except that they are not infectious. If he continues to study, he might develop it into a powerful biochemical weapon. At that time, the disaster caused might be devastating. Therefore, this person must die. Sue absolutely does not want his world to become like a wasteland. As for the WEAO base, because of the mysterious Shyandao Master Alden, Sue is not sure of winning for the time being. So, let it go for the time being. He has more important things to do now. Drai Yingling has always been a recluse, and few people will come to him without his call. Perhaps only Mikillin is an exception. However, unfortunately, after Mikillin left Alden's room, he left the WEAO base without stopping and rushed to the Bloody Castle. Therefore, when someone discovered that Drai Yingling was missing, it was already a day later. At this moment, Sue had already returned to Hudu City. He wandered around and took a comfortable bath. As for who it was, everyone can imagine it by themselves. Afterwards, Sue came to Jinxu Garden leisurely and teleported from here to the wasteland world. Of course, he went to deliver the Starstone. Now there are a lot of Starstones. Fang Yunzi's zombie nemesis can be mass-produced and manufactured. Then the horn of human counterattack on the city can be blown. And the Emperor-level alien species that Sue has always been thinking about will also strip off all their coats in front of him, waiting for him to ravage. He the corpse crystal heaven of the Emperor-level alien species. Just thinking about it makes people excited. Who is it? Who is it? Just as Sue was happily heading to the wasteland world, in the polar deep sea, in the WEAO base, Alden's extremely angry voice came. It has been a real day and night. His brother Ai Yingling is still not found. The entire base was turned upside down, but there was no clue. It was as if the whole person evaporated out of thin air. Disappeared without a trace. The guard had to report the matter to Alden. So there was the scene in front of us. Facing Alden's anger, everyone was silent. This is the advantage of the first generation of aliens. They are born to suppress other aliens. Waste, you bunch of waste, what's the use of you? Seeing everyone silent, Alden became even more angry. A strong murderous intent flashed in his red eyes. The temperature in the whole space dropped sharply, like the ice and snow in the polar regions. The shield guards were better. Except for trembling all over, they could barely stand. But those scientific researchers were miserable. Most of them were still ordinary people. How could they withstand the pressure of a heavenly level? They fell to the ground and fainted. Mr. Alden, oh no, Starstone. At this moment, a warehouse guard ran in a panic. Alden's momentum was reduced. Everyone present couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If it continued like this, many people would lose their lives. Starstone, what's wrong? Alden's momentum gathered, staring at the guard who ran in and asked. The Starstone is gone, not a single piece left. The guard knelt on the ground and said with sweat pouring down his face. Starstone is an important reserve material, and now it has disappeared. As guards, they are definitely to blame. What? Sure enough, Alden's restrained momentum burst out again. The first to bear the brunt was the warehouse guard. He was directly knocked out several meters out of thin air. He fell to the ground and vomited blood. If Alden didn't have something to ask, he would have died long ago. This is the way of heaven, a nearly invincible existence. Tell me, what's going on? Alden's majestic voice sounded. Everything was fine when we did our routine inspection this morning, but during the inspection in the afternoon, the Starstone disappeared. The guard struggled to get up and answered while enduring the severe pain all over his body. Until now, their brains were still confused. How could it suddenly disappear? Could it be that it met a ghost? Waste, Alden didn't expect that it was nonsense without any information. A magic sound went through his brain. The guard suddenly lost his vitality and fell to the ground like noodles in water. This made everyone present gasp. They lowered their heads as much as possible, as if they were afraid of being stared at. Mr. Alden, what's wrong? Just when everyone was in danger, a slightly gentle voice came. It was Mikillen. He came back from the bloody castle. When everyone heard this voice, they couldn't help but feel relieved. If anyone in the entire WEAO base had the ability to dissuade Alden, it must be Mikillen. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late. A shield guard died just like that. Humph, Mikillen, your guards can't even protect one person, now even the Starstone is lost? How did you train them? Although Alden's voice was very calm, it contained boundless anger, which made Mikillen feel a chill. People? Who is it? Starstone? Mikillen frowned. He had been in WEAO for decades and had always been safe and sound. But he had been away for more than a day, less than 2 days, and it seemed that so many things had happened. Yingling is missing, Alden said coldly. What? After hearing this, Mikillen was so surprised that his mouth opened wide. Yingling was Alden's younger brother, a first-generation alien. No wonder Alden was so angry. Have you found the enemy? Mikillen asked immediately. WEAO has existed for dozens or hundreds of years, and such a thing has never happened. Especially since S.H.I.E.L.D. took over, it has protected WEAO tightly. How could this person just disappear? General, we have searched for a day and a night, and found no clues, a S.H.I.E.L.D. guard whispered to Mikillen. This, Mikillen frowned when he heard it. The scope of WEAO base is not that large. A day and a night of searching is enough to check every corner. If there is no discovery, it can only mean that Yingling is in danger. Who is so capable? He actually played a trick on a living person under the nose of a heavenly Deo-level strong man. Chapter 519 Investigation. Starstone, by the way, where's the Starstone? Mikillen suddenly thought of something and hurriedly asked the shield guard. General, the Starstone was just discovered missing, and the Yingling found it a day ago, the shield guard continued to explain. Mr. Alden, I want to go to the Starstone warehouse first, Mikillen said to Alden after a moment of hesitation. Now he needs to find clues to divert Alden's attention. Yet, I'll wait for your good news, Alden nodded directly, but his gloomy face was full of displeasure. Mikillen didn't say anything else, and took a few shield guards and went straight to the Starstone warehouse. General, the guards of the Starstone warehouse felt relieved when they saw Mikillen. How is the scene? Mikillen nodded and asked directly. General, after we found out that the Starstone was missing, We immediately sealed off the scene, and we reported it immediately. By the way, where's Sam? The guard who was speaking glanced behind Mikilin and found that the team member who went to report had not returned. Sam has. A guard who followed Mikilin was about to say something when he was interrupted by Mikilin. We'll talk about other things later, we must go all out to find clues now, Mikilin said as he walked past a guard and walked into the warehouse where the starstone was stored. Sure enough, not a single slag was left. It even made people suspect that this place was originally empty. General, when we opened the warehouse for inspection this morning, everything was fine, but when we handed it over in the afternoon, the warehouse was empty. Nothing unusual happened during the process, no one else even approached the warehouse. The warehouse guard followed in and explained in a low voice. But there was a hint of sadness in his voice. Although they didn't finish, they roughly predicted Sam's fate. Next, if there is no progress, their fate may not escape Sam's fate. Has Dra Yingling been to the Starstone warehouse? Mikilin asked, looking at the empty warehouse. Because this is on the spaceship, the warehouse and the spaceship are integrated, so there is no surveillance installed inside. Therefore, no one knows what happened in the warehouse at that time. Dr. Yingling, yes, the doctor did come to the warehouse once a day ago, however, he only stayed in there for a few minutes and left, the guard replied quickly. 1 day ago, why did he come to the Starstone warehouse? Mikilin frowned even deeper. Wasn't that the eve of Yingling's disappearance? As far as he knew, Yingling had always scoffed at the Starstone's plan to drive the polluter. Why did he suddenly run to the Starstone warehouse? Yes, General, Dr. Yingling didn't let us follow up, so, I don't know the purpose of his coming here, the guard continued to explain. What's that smell? Mikilin nodded, but suddenly smelled a burnt smell, which seemed to be there and not there. If you don't distinguish carefully, it is easy to ignore it. The guard was confused. What smell? Why didn't he smell it? Ignoring the guard's surprise, Mikilin searched the empty warehouse carefully. Hard work pays off. He really found it. On the floor in the center of the warehouse, he found a small pool of thin sheets formed by metal solution, only the size of a fingernail. But it is certain that this thing is definitely not something that originally existed in the warehouse. Mikilin reached out and picked up the piece of metal flakes. It seemed that there was still a trace of residual heat. He put it to the tip of his nose and smelled it, and there was indeed a burnt smell. What is this? Mikilin asked the guard in a deep voice. The guards looked at each other. They all shook their heads blankly. There are only starstones in the Starstone warehouse. They had all moved in, and had checked several times, and there was nothing else. Send it for inspection immediately, I need to know its detailed composition. Mikilin immediately handed the thing in his hand to a shield guard. Yes, General. The shield guard who received the thing immediately carefully held the metal sheet in his hand and ran to the test area. In order to thoroughly study this alien spaceship, the United States invested heavily to build the most advanced and comprehensive laboratory in the world here. The talents gathered here are also top-notch. Taking advantage of the gap in the test, Mikilin led people to retrieve all the surveillance videos in the past 2 days. Focused on checking the movement trajectory of Dra Yingling. It was found that on the day that Gale and others left. That is, after Dra Yingling checked the Starstone, he went to the bathroom. After that, he never came out again. Mikilin immediately sent someone to investigate the bathroom. Unfortunately, more than a day had passed. The bathroom had been used many times. No abnormality was found. General, the test report is out. Just when the investigation was at a stalemate again, the guard who had taken the metal flakes to the test area ran back. He was holding a paper report in his hand. The dense data and symbols on it made people's brains ache. However, there was a summary at the end, which stated the main components of the metal flakes. It was a mixture of various metals, plastics, etc. The specific detailed components still need further analysis to be confirmed. Metal and plastic. Mikilin immediately thought of electronic equipment. Perhaps the Starstone had been stolen long ago. General, what should we do now? A guard couldn't help but ask the silent Mikilin. You all go back to your posts first. Increase vigilance. I'll go talk to Mr. Walden, Mikilin said and left with a report. Yes, General. When Mikilin saw Walden again, it was in Yingling's laboratory. He used the highest authority to open the safe in the laboratory, and it was empty. Mr. Alden, We found a small thing in the warehouse. Mikilin told all his findings and ideas to Alden, who was staring at the safe in a trance. So, Xingxi and AI Yingling may have disappeared at the same time. After hearing this, Alden understood Mikilin's guess. I'm afraid so, sir. Mikilin nodded and said. Now seeing the empty safe, he became more certain of his guess. Could it be Gale? Alden suddenly asked. That day, he found that Gale was unusual, but he didn't expect this to happen. Sir, I can't be sure. Mikilin shook his head helplessly. The thing he was most worried about still happened. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 520 Sadness. HMPH Alden was obviously dissatisfied with Mikilin's answer. But he did not continue to ask. Mr. Alden, do you want to verify it? Facing the silent Alden, Mikilin asked tentatively. Gale is his old comrade in arms. If he cannot prove his innocence, Alden will definitely kill him. We will know whether it is him later. After Alden finished speaking, he turned and left the laboratory. He walked straight to his room. Mikilin hurriedly followed him. Back to the dark room. Alden walked straight to a hidden shelf and reached out to take a glass tube from it. The old label on it clearly read AI Yingling Miss N. He was preparing to use his superpower blood tracing. Mikilin could only watch quietly. Soon, Alden completed the preparations and started the instrument. Scarlet blood mist rose. Laboratory, safe. One scene after another flew by, but no one appeared. Only for a period of time, AI Yingling looked in one direction for a long time. From the perspective, he was lying on the floor of the laboratory. But there was no such part in the surveillance video. Asshole, Alden was so angry that he couldn't help cursing. Although the ability of blood source tracing is powerful, there are several conditions. The first is that the main body of the blood has died, otherwise it is invalid. The second is that it can only reproduce the vision of the main body of the blood, without sound effects. In other words, it can only present things that the main body of the blood saw a period of time before death. The third is that each subject can only perform blood source tracing once. Obviously, the other party seems to know Alden's special ability, so from beginning to end, he did not appear in AI Yingling's field of vision. This also further confirms the fact that AI Yingling died. Therefore, Alden was so angry. Mikilin, who was watching from the side, was also terrified. Although he was a superhuman, it was definitely not a good thing to be bathed in the first generation of wire. However, Mikilin was really relieved. After all, there was no object that pointed out Gale. But the blood was exhausted and the instrument stopped automatically. The last picture was still floating above the desktop. A whole piece of blood mist represented that AI Yingling was in darkness before his death. From beginning to end, no shadow of the murderer was seen. Faced with this invisible enemy, even Alden, who was at the top of his strength, fell into silence. But then, Alden's eyes were full of murderous intent. Call Gale, immediately. Right away, Alden turned around and said to Mikilin. Mr. Alden, this shouldn't be Gale's work. Mikilin was shocked when he heard the words, and hurriedly defended his old comrade. Not many people know my ability, now, including you. They may all be my enemies. Alden's eyes were like a beast that was choosing people to devour. Yes, Mr. Alden, I'll contact them right away. Being stared at by Alden, Mikilin suddenly felt a chill. He quickly stood at attention and saluted. As he said that, he was about to turn around and leave. In order to ensure the secrecy of Weo, there is no way to contact the outside world here. You need to take a submarine to a contact station near the polar region. And the contact station doesn't know about Weo's existence. Wait, leave Ajiro's blood first, Alden said to Mikilin's back. Yes, Mr. Alden. Mikilin stopped again after hearing this. Took out a small insulated box from his pocket, and after opening it, there was a glass tube inside, filled with scarlet blood. Without waiting for Mikilin to pick it out, Alden waved his hand, and the glass tube flew towards him. Mikilin said nothing and left the room. Without stopping for a moment, Mikilin boarded the submarine that had just landed and left Weo base again. 3 hours later, he rushed to the nearest contact station, where he dialed Gale's satellite phone. Hello, old friend. The call was quickly connected, and Gale's slightly tired voice came from it. In the past 2 days, He has been busy tracking down relevant information about Ajiro. He found out that Ajiro had appeared in Marika, and it was from there that he started to become stronger. And there was a piece of local information that caught his attention. That is, the police station received a report that 4 young people spent the night in a haunted house in Marika, and they clearly remembered meeting a man named Charles. But afterwards, there was no trace of this man. Through the system investigation, it was found that Charles did exist and was indeed a native of Marika, but his whereabouts were unknown in an overseas war a few years ago. The system did not find the vehicle information provided by the 4 young people. But they firmly believed that they had met this person. The police only thought they were mentally ill and wanted to drive them away. Unexpectedly, the 4 people reacted a little too radically and clashed with the police. This left a criminal record. It seemed normal, but Gale always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't say it. When he was considering whether to go to see them, Mikilin called. "Gale, old friend, Mr. Alden wants to see you now." Mikilin opened his mouth with some difficulty. Escape is impossible. Alden's strength is there. This may be the sadness of aliens. They seem to be very glorious on the surface, but in fact they are all puppets of the first generation. What? Did Mr. Alden make any new discoveries? Gale couldn't help but feel happy when he heard it. Don't ask too much, come over after you have finished your work, hurry. Mikilin couldn't speak directly, so he could only say it vaguely. Okay, I'll come as soon as possible. Gale immediately understood the meaning. Something extraordinary must have happened. And it's very unfavorable to him. But he knew that he couldn't escape. Well, I'll wait for you at Station 1. Mikilin hung up the phone after he finished speaking. The time was just within the range of restricted calls. After hanging up the phone, Mikilin walked out. A piercing cold wind blew, but it didn't make him feel a bit cold. Looking at the white glacier in the distance, he couldn't help but fall into deep thought. The shield guards who followed stood faithfully behind Mikilin, feeling the polar evening breeze. This stop lasted for several hours. It was not until late at night that a military-armed helicopter cut through the sky and appeared in the sight of Mikilin and his team. When they arrived nearby, Gale jumped directly from the helicopter without using a rappelling rope. With a bang, the ground shook. "Let's go," Mikilin and Gale said in unison. After that, the two smiled at each other and walked together towards the place where the submarine was docked. However, there was a sense of helplessness and sadness in the smiles they gave each other. Chapter 521 Preparations for War. Boss, what are these? What is that starstone, in the wasteland world, in the Phaeton base? Fang Yunzi looked at the card of starstone that Su Wei had brought, and was stunned with surprise. I used to think that this substance was very mysterious and rare. Unexpectedly, the boss now directly brought a truckload of it. What the hell is this? Here are these enough to make a zombie killer, Su Wei said with a smile. Enough, boss. Do you want to counterattack the city? Fang Yunzi couldn't help but roll her eyes at Su Wei. Isn't this obviously showing off? Be more confident, remove the word want. I just want to attack Jinquan City. When talking about this matter, Su Wei's expression naturally became serious. The information left by the Demon King of the Demon Realm was too oppressive. He must be promoted as soon as possible. Fang Yunzi just said it casually, but she didn't expect Su Wei to be serious. Why, no confidence? Su Wei asked back when he saw Fang Yunzi's surprised expression. No, confident, Fang Yunzi, who had come to her senses, answered without hesitation. Think carefully. With a sufficient number of zombie nemesis, it seems that attacking the city will become much easier. What is the biggest advantage of zombies? That is the number. If the zombies fight among themselves and consume their own advantages, the remaining battles will naturally be much easier. Just focus on fighting against high-level alien species. This is definitely a strong point for a Phaeton. Because the second Black Phoenix Metro is offline ahead of schedule and has begun actual combat testing. This means that Phaeton's combat power has doubled again. Okay, please stop the work at hand first. Go all out to create zombie nemesis. The first city we want to take back is Jinquan City, Su Wei said heroically. Yes, boss. Fang Yunzi only felt the blood boiling, and her whole body was filled with endless power. A few months ago, everyone was fighting to the death for a bite of food. But now, Phaeton has the ability to counterattack the city. If I hadn't experienced it myself, I would have thought I was dreaming. As for the rest, Su Wei naturally had nothing to do. Fang Yunzi would draw personnel from the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Ministry of Machinery, etc., and start to rush to make the zombie nemesis. There are already prototypes, so it will be very fast to make them. It is estimated that in 2 days, the number expected by Su Wei can be reached. After leaving the Ministry of Science and Technology, Su Wei went to the Ministry of Armed Forces and contacted Song Dan at the same time. The battle to recapture Jingquan City naturally requires a general mobilization of the whole nation. Zhang Ling, Yu Na, Ma Xianwei, Wang Boeng, Wu Ma and other backbones are all present. Even Zhang Bao from Iron Forge asked to attend the meeting. After all, this is something that is enough to shock all survivors and revitalize the wasteland. The next battle will definitely be extremely fierce. Various military supplies are naturally indispensable. The larger the quantity, the better. Boss, everyone who entered the meeting room greeted Su Wei with a smile. That feeling of being bathed in spring breeze, not wanting to fight at all. It can be met, how much this decision is yearning for everyone. After all, the roots of mankind are in the city. 10 years, a full 10 years. Humans living in the wilderness are like rootless duckweed, thinking about returning to their homes all the time. And today, their boss, Su Wei, is going to take them to realize this dream. How can they not be happy? Su Wei was forced to greet them with a smile, making it more festive than the new year. Papa after everyone sat down, Su Wei clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention. At the same time, the noise in the conference room disappeared. Everyone, I believe you all know the next action. Then without further ado, Lao Wang, let's get to the action plan. Su Wei's unique opening remarks made everyone smile bitterly. I thought the boss was going to give a pre-war encouragement, but I didn't expect it to be so direct. Boss, we are going to launch an attack on Jingquan City from the 3-point direction. Wang Boeng was caught off guard by Su Wei's sudden attack, and the water he drank went directly into his throat. He coughed a few times and felt better. When he received the notice, Su Wei asked him to sort out a plan first so that they could discuss it together at the meeting. So, he walked and thought as he went. Just when he had a rough idea, Su Wei forced him to do it. The boss is really getting more and more cunning. Seeing that Su Wei did not object, Wang Bowen continued, Jingquan City has a permanent population of millions, and a floating population of hundreds of thousands, excluding the hundreds of thousands of zombies that died in the last zombie tide. At present, the number of zombies in Jingquan City is at least 5 million. Once our Phaeton launches an attack from the south, it may cause an unprecedented zombie tide. So, we will launch attacks from Fengchao in the west, Longhu in the east, and Phaeton in the south at the same time. We can separate the zombies in Jingquan City into 3 major blocks. This can reduce resistance and weaken the power of the zombie group. Wang Bowen told his idea. As for the north, since there is no base, it means no supplies, so it is not meaningful to attack from there. At that time, the battlefield can be expanded according to the situation. Moreover, given the nature of zombies, once the battle starts, they will swarm in, and there is no need to worry about it running away. By the time the alien species realizes that something is wrong and wants to retreat, it is too late. As long as Fengchao and Longhu move slightly to the north, they can form a 3-sided encirclement of Jingquan City. Therefore, there is no need to set up a separate garrison in the north. While Wang Boeng was talking, he demonstrated the route of attack and the deployment of personnel on the holographic projection screen. Professionals are different. The plan that was thought up in a hurry is also well organized. You can tell at a glance that it is very feasible. Very good, Su Wei and others nodded repeatedly. Of course, this is based on the situation of having a zombie nemesis. Otherwise, with Phaeton, how can tens of thousands of people shake the army of millions of zombies? The zombie nemesis developed by Fang Yunzi is naturally known to the top leaders. A battle method based on this was once envisioned. Of course, the imaginary enemy at that time was a zombie tide. Although they are now the host, the tactics are similar. As long as we take into account some possible risks and take preventive measures, the chances of winning this battle are still very high. In addition, the early retirement of the Black Phoenix Unit 2 has given the armed forces greater confidence. Now, Su Wei has obtained so many star stones that can interfere with the behavior of zombies. Then all this has become a natural outcome. Chapter 522, Bully. The horn of counterattack on the city sounded. Whether it was Phaeton or Longhu, the bases were all boiling. City. A familiar yet unfamiliar name. What does the place where humans once lived look like now? But no matter what it has become, it is the home of humans. It is naturally great to be able to recapture it. This is not only about obtaining a large amount of supplies and foundations. It is also a strong stroke for the revival of wasteland humans. Therefore, this battle is of great significance. The three major bases of Phaeton, Fengchao, and Longhu have begun the unlimited reinforcement mode. Ironforge and Demon Realm base have begun the unlimited transportation mode. Sui started another round of moving. This time he was a little shady. Not only did he patronize the United States, but he also patronized a series of countries such as Big Bear Country and Land Country. You have to share the spoils evenly. 2 days passed quickly. On this day, Sui entered the Phaeton base and received a message from Fang Yunzi. The zombie nemesis is ready. There are 3 types in total. The first type is a large zombie killer, codenamed Bull. It is a modified crawler all-terrain armored vehicle, and the name is used for this armored vehicle. Its advantages are thick skin, strong power, and adaptability to terrain. With the amphibious system, there is almost no place it can't go. Now equipped with the latest energy core, it has stronger power and super endurance. Each bull is equipped with 6 personnel, including 2 drivers and 4 crew members. The crew is divided into a group of 2 people, responsible for controlling the zombie killer. The coverage diameter of the bull is 1,000 meters. In other words, as long as the zombies enter this area, they will be controlled by the band emitted by the Star Stone. The second type is a medium-sized zombie killer, codenamed Wizard. It is a special model that adds a medium-sized zombie killer to the HT-1-1 Guardian power armor. They will become the umbrella of the power armor team and fight deep into the enemy group. The control range is 500 meters in diameter. The third type is a small zombie killer, codenamed Magic Box. It is Feng Yunzi's initial test model, which is a single-soldier portable equipment. It can provide protection for ordinary soldiers. The control range is 100 meters in diameter. Bull is a main attack weapon. A total of more than 60 units were produced and manufactured in 2 days. It will be evenly distributed to the 3 bases responsible for the main attack. Wizard is based on a super soldier squad of 100 people, and each unit is equipped with a wizard. As for the magic box, it is simple to produce and basically uses scraps. Therefore, the quantity is large. Basically, every 10-person squad can get one. After Su Wei confirmed the distribution plan, the 3 types of zombie killers were divided into 3 parts, 2 of which were transported to Fengchao and Longhu respectively. As for the mobilization of troops, it has been completed in these 2 days. Fengchao base, 10,000 super soldiers, 50,000 mobilized soldiers. This is mainly due to the transportation from the Demon Realm, and the logistics personnel have grown unprecedentedly. Phaeton base, 13,000 super soldiers, 20,000 mobilized soldiers. This is the force drawn out while ensuring that the production of the base is not affected. Longhu base, 10,000 super soldiers, 30,000 mobilized soldiers. Many of them are survivors transported from the Demon Realm. The original survivors of Longhu were transferred to the Phaeton base. Boom! As the last batch of assigned materials left of Phaeton and were transported to Fengchao and Longhu. The 2 mechas that stayed in the base for maintenance. Black Phoenix No. 1 and Black Phoenix No. 2 also took off and flew to the west and east. This time, Su Wei did not drive the mecha, but arranged Black Phoenix No. 1 to the Fengchao base, driven by Yuna. Black Phoenix No. 2 was driven by Zhang Ling and went to Longhu base. Su Wei wore his upgraded Xiaolong power armor and sat in the Phaeton. After being reinforced with blue Chenjin, Xiaolong is no longer light blue, but has further reached the main body of azure blue. The hardness is even more outrageous. It can be said that Su Wei is wearing the current Xiaolong, which is enough to fight Black Phoenix 1 and Black Phoenix 2 alone. This is the advantage of equipment. A day passed in preparation. When night fell, all members entered a state of silent rest. Tomorrow morning is the time to launch the attack. So, now the soldiers need to have a full rest. However, many people can't sleep. When they think of tomorrow's battle, they are excited as if they were injected with chicken blood. If other people attack the city, the soldiers must be sad. Because it is like hitting a stone with an egg. But Su Wei is different. He not only made Phaeton a top-level strength, but also provided the same supplies and equipment. The strongest is the military combat mecha Black Phoenix. There are only 2 of them. There are tens of thousands of power armors of various models. This is definitely a strong guarantee for everyone. In addition, there is the rumored zombie nemesis. Therefore, everyone is full of expectations for tomorrow's battle. Under the leadership of Sui, the legendary boss, they will definitely create brilliance. Recapture the city and build a paradise on the wasteland. The soldiers are too excited to sleep. Naturally, the officers will not sleep soundly. It's just that they are not excited, but because there are too many things to deal with. Officers must not only be brave and good at fighting, but also keep their eyes and ears open. They need to make full preparations before the war, and there can be no mistakes or carelessness. Even Su Wei did not sleep. Under the lamp, Yu Wang Boing and others deduce tomorrow's actions over and over again. So, this night is destined to be sleepless. When the first ray of sunlight pierced the sky in the morning, the three major base armies, the Hudang Army, the Longhu Army, and the Fengchao Army, advanced towards Jinquan City at the same time. In each direction, there were 10 bulls lined up in a row, forming a battle line that stretched for tens of kilometers, slowly approaching Jinquan City. Behind each bull, there is a team of thousands of people. It is composed of super soldiers and mobilized soldiers. Super soldiers are in front, and mobilized soldiers are in the back. Finally, there is a logistics brigade composed of engineers, mechanics, pharmacists and other personnel. Provide necessary logistical support for the army. Soon, the three teams crossed the isolation belt and arrived at the edge of Jinquan City. Through wireless communication, the three teams maintained a unified pace. Soon, a steel wire fence appeared in front of him. This was a defense line built to prevent wandering zombies. Although it was often destroyed by mutant beasts or powerful alien species, the base still sent people to patrol and repair it every day. The purpose was to provide security for the people who developed agricultural planting around the base. However, it was no longer necessary now. Run over it, Su Wei, who is wearing the Xiaolong power armor, gave an order directly to Bull with a flag hanging. It was the command vehicle on this side. The other bulls had to obey its orders and carry out combat operations. Chapter 523 Jackpot. Boom boom boom, click. After receiving Su Wei's order, the command vehicle issued instructions to other barbaric bulls, and the driver stepped on the accelerator and rushed forward. The wire mesh that can block ordinary zombies seemed vulnerable in front of the barbaric bulls. Almost without feeling any obstruction, it tore through a large piece of wire mesh and entered the scope of Jinquan City. The other barbaric bulls were not willing to lag behind and stepped on the accelerator to rush towards the wire mesh. Keep going, Su Wei took the lead and flew forward. He is now the commander-in-chief of the Phaeton army in the south. Wang Boing stayed in the Phaeton base, one to take charge and the other to provide support. Correspondingly, Longhu has Wu Ma in charge. Feng Chao has Ma Xiao in charge. The enemy this time is zombies, and the advantages of the Hidden Wolf Corps cannot be fully utilized, so Su Wei did not let Ma Xiao participate in the starting lineup. For this reason, the girl rolled her eyes at Su Wei. It's a pity that it's useless. No means no. Faced with Su Wei's strength, Ma Xiao could only settle for the second best and asked for the title of reserve commander. Only then did he return to Feng Chao base and wait for orders. Boss, the new South District is ahead. While walking, Su Xiaodong, who is wearing a fierce ghost armor, caught up. Well, how is the situation? Su Wei nodded when he heard it. There were a lot of ruins here, representing the former prosperity. Unfortunately, it is now covered by a lot of vegetation. Except for the broken walls that have not collapsed, there is no trace of human habitation. A large number of ordinary zombies have appeared. I guess they have smelled us. Su Xiaodong, who was standing aside, raised his hand and glanced at the screen projection on the bracelet. The picture transmitted back by the drone showed that a large group of ordinary zombies had begun to move here. We just cleaned up the South District last time, and now there are so many again. There are really a lot of zombies, but it's okay. Let's see how effective the bull is first. Su Wei was not surprised but happy when he heard it. I was just worried about being bored, and now I'm going to give up. All troops on alert, prepare for battle. Su Wei issued an order to the public channel. Received. All units responded. The metal box on the roof of the manu was opened first, revealing a radar-like device that slowly rotated. Don't panic yet, get closer before turning on. Su Wei raised the flight altitude a little, and zombies running towards him appeared in his field of vision. Received. "Boss," the operator of the Manu command vehicle immediately replied. The advancing team also stopped. Only the device on the roof of the Manu was slowly rotating. "Brother, a group of ordinary zombies was found on the Western Front. Contact is expected in 10 minutes. At this time, Yuna's communicator rang, and a sweet girl's voice came out. "Received, approved to start the war," Su Wei replied immediately. It seems that the zombies' reactions are similar. Su Wei, a group of zombies was also found on the Eastern Front, and there is also a handsome alien. As soon as Su Wei finished speaking, Zhang Ling's communicator rang. Unexpectedly, they won the jackpot and a handsome alien appeared right away. "Received, approved to start the war, not a bad start, Xiao Lingling. Is the path your husband chose for you good?" Su Wei couldn't help teasing. "Get lost, get out of the way," Zhang Ling spat and then closed the communication channel. How Zhang Ling's ostrich behavior made Su Wei proud. He couldn't help laughing out loud. "Boss, what's the good news? Let us have some fun too," Su Xiaodong, who didn't know what was going on, couldn't help asking. "Get lost, get out of the way," Su Wei rolled his eyes at the other person. "This is called fun, do you understand? Single dog." Su Wei, Su Xiaodongo, turn on the camera. As he spoke, the group of ordinary zombies had already arrived in front of him, less than 30 meters away. Su Wei ordered Manu to turn on the camera. Buzz buzz buzz, the device on the roof of the Manu started to spin rapidly, making a low hum. The wave band produced by the star stone was invisible. But the zombies that rushed over suddenly stopped, all standing still with blank faces. This proved that the zombie killer worked. Oh yeah, seeing that the first batch of zombies that rushed over were successfully controlled, the Phaeton army suddenly burst into thunderous cheers. This was enough to prove that glory was imminent. The eyes of every survivor were burning with a burning fire of hope. Zombie killer. Worthy of being a zombie killer. Keep going, Su Wei couldn't help but get excited. The ability to control zombies, and in groups. Isn't this cheating? Isn't this equivalent to using a plugin? But I like this feeling. He buzzed. The Manu started forward again. At the same time, the zombies that stayed in place also turned around and headed towards Jinquan City. Basically, all zombies that enter the range are controlled by the bull. Even the generals and commanders are not immune. However, it will increase the energy consumption of the bull. But this is not a problem, because they have sufficient energy reserves. Even if they are not enough, they can be replenished quickly from the base. Soon, a thick layer of zombies gathered in front of the bull. Like a moving great wall, they advanced forward. Attack! As the thickness of the zombie group increased, Su Wei issued an order to counterattack. Received. The bull command vehicle took the lead in changing the frequency, and the device on the roof rotated faster. The zombies in the front suddenly became irritable and restless. The zombies in the front row immediately rushed towards the oncoming, uncontrolled zombies, using claws and teeth, and wrestled together. The zombies in the back row could not reach the attack, and suddenly the ghost fire was flying, and they directly launched a frantic attack without distinguishing friend from foe. Zombies fell down in groups. They were all going to be killed, so they died. No one will feel bad. Anyway, they can still control it. They only worry about the lack of space and zombies. In this way, the team advanced 1 kilometer straight. There were zombie corpses all over the ground. The mobilized soldiers behind them now have something to do. They need to collect the zombie corpses together, collect valuable items such as corpse crystals and destroy them. Unknown viruses are still deadly. Therefore, the aftermath cannot be sloppy. At the same time, they need everything around Xiao Qing. Check if there are any fish caught in the net. Their combat intensity is not high, but the workload is the largest. Fortunately, there are workers seized from the bloody fortress. Although the defensive armor and the double hammers for attack have been removed, they are still good at work. A lot of manpower loss was reduced. In this way, under the control of the bull, a large number of zombies fell, and a large number of zombies were controlled. Always maintain a relatively thick control of the zombie group to isolate the swarming zombies. Chapter 524 Cunning. It took a whole morning. The entire southern front only advanced a few kilometers. The speed can be described as a turtle's pace. And the speed is still slowing down with a continuous swarm of zombies. If you look down from a high altitude at this moment, you will definitely be surprised by this spectacular scene. This is a scene that you can't see in any zombie movie. On the front line that stretches for dozens of kilometers, hundreds of thousands and millions of zombies are like two waves that are as powerful as water and fire colliding with each other. The collision creates countless surging waves. And the humans who were originally food are standing 100 meters away to watch the show. Picking up corpses is very happy. Boss, we can't move forward. When the Phaeton army advanced to nearly 10 kilometers, Su Xiaodong ran to report to Su Wei. Through the pictures taken by the drone, the zombies that emerged have blocked several kilometers. It is several times the zombie wall controlled by the bull. They can only fight passively and cannot continue to advance. If they go further, the Phaeton army will be mixed with the zombies. In order to avoid accidents, Su Wei emphasized before the battle that it was necessary to maintain a safe combat distance. Even if it took a little longer, he did not want to see unnecessary casualties. Then stop moving forward, let's wear off their skin first. Su Wei also saw the drone screen and said to Su Xiaodong. Most of the zombies that appeared now were ordinary zombies, some of which were land tanks and sports javelins. There were also generals and commanders. So far, no king-level aliens have appeared in the 3 war zones. Squeak. The bull in the front row stopped after receiving the order. Continue to control the zombies to fight. The super soldiers behind went forward to both sides of the bull and waited for battle. The hardest working ones were the mobilized soldiers. They were still busy in the sea of blood and corpses. The situation in the other 2 war zones was similar. Su Wei could see the situation on both sides through the screen shared by Yuna and Zhang Ling. The zombies that emerged from Jinquan City were basically attracted by the sound of fighting and ran in 3 directions. Occasionally, some escaped through the narrow gap and passed through the blockade line, and they will soon be controlled by the wizard and then sent to the front line. It's really not a waste. It looks very easy. But everyone's nerves are tense, and they dare not relax at all. They are facing a zombie group of millions. They rely entirely on the zombie wall built by the bull. This is tantamount to dancing on the edge of a knife. Once a gap appears in the zombie wall, the consequences will be disastrous. Therefore, Su Wei and Wang Boing arranged the most elite super soldiers to serve as the second front line. It is to prevent the bull from having an accident and to be able to remedy it in an emergency. At the same time, each war zone has 10 spare bulls, which are also prepared to prevent accidents. In addition, Yuna and Zhang Ling are in charge. It should be possible to ensure the safety of this operation. Is there any abnormality in the direction of the city center? Su Wei asked Su Xiaodong during the parade. In view of the existence of flying zombies, air supremacy is naturally very important. But the satellites in the wasteland world cannot operate normally. Therefore, there are many drawbacks in air defense. It mainly relies on passive defense. In addition, the pressure of ordinary zombies is huge now, so Su Wei did not order drones to conduct in-depth reconnaissance. If a large number of zombies are attracted at this time, it will be a disaster. No abnormality has appeared yet, Su Xiaodong replied hurriedly. He is now responsible for the reconnaissance work of the entire southern theater, and his responsibility is heavy. He cannot afford to be negligent. Okay, continue to monitor closely, report immediately as soon as there is information, Su Wei instructed. He is now suspended in the air at the front line, with a mountain of corpses under his feet. Yes, boss, Su Xiaodong responded immediately. The other 2 theaters also have people responsible for monitoring the entire scene and sharing information. After all, this is a unified battlefield, and a single move will affect the entire body. If nothing unexpected happens, something unexpected will happen. Before Su Xiaodong's voice fell, a sharp sound of breaking through the air came. I saw a huge concrete block falling from the sky and smashing directly towards the bull. Defense, without waiting for Su Wei's order. The super soldiers next to the bull immediately took action. Several guardians set up the guardian shield and protected the bull. The attackers opened fire one after another, and dense bullets hit the large piece of concrete, which disintegrated in the air visibly. In the end, the large piece of concrete was broken into countless fragments in the air and fell like rain. It hit the guardian shield and made a bang. But none of them hit the bull. It did not cause any damage. Su Wei followed the trajectory of the parabola and soon found the enemy who threw the concrete block. It was a land tank covered with a thick stratum corneum. It stood at the edge of the control circle of the bull. Obviously, the advanced alien controlling it had noticed the abnormality, so it started a long-range attack. Su Wei's vision passed over the land tank and searched in the dense group of corpses. Shoot the horse first when shooting a person, and capture the king first when capturing a thief. Killing a land tank alone is not very effective. Instead, the alien hiding behind should be pulled out and solved. This is the most effective solution. Boss, the target is at 1 o'clock, behind that half-tall building. At this time, Su Xiaodong's voice came, and the drone screen was cut over. I saw a king-level alien species standing on the back of a dilapidated building 1 kilometer away. Muscular face, cold and bloodthirsty eyes, wide and cold sharp teeth. All of them are hideous features. It seems that the sound of the drone attracted its attention and it looked up. Suddenly, a close-up of the face came, which looked even more terrifying. Get rid of it, Su Wei ordered directly. This king-level alien species has discovered the role of the barbarian bull and must be eliminated. Yes, boss, Su Xiaodong immediately took the order. Then, 3 special operations teams were sent out. Although each of them had only more than 10 people, they were equipped with a wizard in each team. With the flying ability of the power armor, it was enough for them to carry out a decapitation operation on the king-level alien species. 3 teams flew over the zombies and soon arrived in front of the king-level alien that the drone had locked onto. They formed a triangle and surrounded it in the middle. Roar, seeing the enemy appear directly in front of it, the king-level alien was angry. It raised its head and roared at the special forces in the air. The zombies around also raised their heads and roared loudly. The land tank grabbed the sports javelin beside it and threw it upwards. A warthog zombie hidden in the zombie group also adjusted its position and prepared to fire bone spurs, trying to pierce the enemy in the air like a candied hawse. Chapter 525 Wizard. Start. Just as the zombies were about to attack, 3 voices rang out in unison. 3 guardians with a huge mechanical backpack installed opened the mechanical backpack on their backs, revealing a device similar to a small radar. The device rotated rapidly. An invisible ripple spread out. The zombies on the ground suddenly quieted down. The ordinary zombies stopped roaring and stood still like wooden chickens. The sports javelin thrown into the air turned over and landed steadily on the ground. Go back to where you came from. The ready-made warthog zombie also lay back in its position. Roar the king alien resisted the invasion of the Starstone band, but it could be seen that it was a little uncomfortable. Especially when he saw his subordinates lost contact with him. A feeling of uneasiness spread instantly. Be careful, it wants to run, one of the wizards reminded his companions loudly. Now they have to maintain the operation of the zombie nemesis and cannot move for the time being. Received, watch our performance, the other special forces members replied one after another. As they spoke, they drew out the alloy swords equipped with their armor and rushed forward. Without the protection of the zombies, the king-level alien was not even as strong as the mutant beasts of the same level. Soon, the king-level alien was chopped all over. Scarlet blood flowed out, almost dyeing his entire body red. Roar, feeling the threat of death. The king-level alien roared like a wounded beast. The zombies, which were originally stunned, became agitated a little. Bang bang bang, the 3 wizards in the air fell directly to the ground, set up 2 guardian shields to protect their bodies, and then output at full power to run the zombie killer. The restless zombies suddenly became quiet again, watching their king being beaten to death by a group of humans. Until a special forces member cut off the head of the king-level alien, the surrounding zombies did not move again. The decapitation operation ended successfully. Beautiful. The Phaeton army, who watched the whole process through the drone, couldn't help but cheer. With a zombie nemesis, these zombies that were originally afraid of the tiger have become scum. They are at the mercy of others. After leaving an attack order, the 3 wizards flew back into the air and flew back with the other team members. Without the control of the king-level alien species, the zombies bewitched by the Starstone suddenly rebelled. They launched a crazy attack on the zombies around them. Not to mention, the effect was particularly gratifying. A short vacuum zone appeared in that area. Only a headless king-level alien corpse was lying there. As for its head, it had been taken away by the special forces as a trophy. The corpse crystal was hidden in the head. This is the first king-level corpse crystal in the Southern Theater, which is of great significance. Good job. As soon as the 3 special forces teams came back, they were warmly welcomed by everyone. Especially when they saw the huge king-level alien head, the cheers were even louder. Among the thousands of troops, take the head of the general. This is undoubtedly an extremely comfortable experience. It also ignited the fire of hope in everyone's heart again, burning more fiercely. Dongzi, give these 3 teams a credit, Seeing everyone's performance, Sui couldn't help but smile. In the communication channel, he said to Su Xiaodong, "This decapitation operation undoubtedly confirmed the role of the wizard, which is definitely the nemesis of zombies and the nightmare of aliens." "Got it, boss." Su Xiaodong immediately recorded it. "After the war, there must be rewards for merit. This is why everyone has been looking forward to the war. The order of the wasteland world has collapsed. Phaeton is establishing a new order. How to quickly gain chips, and the new order is naturally the accumulation of military merits. Any order that wants to maintain cannot do without the escort of military force. Therefore, military merits represent the treatment they can get in the future. In the past, there was no hope, and everyone was just muddling along. Now it's different. Phaeton has shown new hope, the hope of human re-emergence. So, if you don't work hard now, when will you?" The Phaeton army was immediately stimulated and huddled. They wished that there would be a few more king-level alien species so that they could also make achievements. "Attention, all units, defend strictly, don't let a zombie cross the cordon," Su Wei had to shout in the public channel. In order to cool down the people who were getting excited. The most important thing at present is to steadily consume a large number of ordinary zombies and low-level zombies, instead of thinking about hunting alien species. When the number of ordinary zombies and low-level zombies is consumed, hunting alien species will not be a piece of cake. On the contrary, if a large number of ordinary zombies and low-level zombies break through the blockade and cause damage to the barbarian bull, the battle line will collapse instantly. At that time, let alone hunting alien species, even escaping will become a luxury. Therefore, everyone must see the situation clearly and must not put the cart before the horse. "Got it, boss. Got it, boss. Got it, boss." In the public channel, replies rang out one after another. Many people were ashamed of this. Almost, I couldn't hold it back. If the battle line collapsed because of this, wouldn't it be a sinner for all ages? So, everyone focused their attention on the front line again, ready to fight. Seeing that everyone's mind returned to the battle line, Su Wei was relieved. "The road is long and arduous, I will search up and down. The battle to recapture Jinquan City has just begun, and there is still a long battle to fight." Next, Su Wei asked about the situation in the Western Theater and the Eastern Theater. The situation on Yuna's side is similar to that in the South. Just now, a king-level alien species was harvested, but that guy was a bit reckless and led the team directly into the control range of the bull convoy. The result is conceivable. His subordinates immediately rebelled, turned around and output, and stunned the king-level alien species. I have never encountered such a situation. Before I came to my senses, I was picked off the head by the Black Phoenix mecha driven by Yuna. I couldn't die anymore. The Eastern Theater where Zhangling was located was a little unusual. At the beginning, the commander-level alien appeared first, and then two king-level aliens appeared at the same time. Although they were quickly eliminated by her and her men, this indicates that the Eastern Theater has attracted the attention of an emperor-level alien. Otherwise, two wild king-level aliens would never appear at the same time. The strong are respected. And there is no room for two tigers in one mountain. This also applies to the world of zombies. Only king-level aliens that are restrained by emperor-level aliens will appear at the same time and act together. For this reason, Su Wei specifically reminded Zhangling again and again not to be reckless. At the same time, readjust the entire battle situation. The center of gravity began to tilt towards the Eastern Theater, because the probability of high-level aliens appearing there is a bit high. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.